Let's get peppy. Welcome to PEP 241. That's Planet Extra Podcast. I am Chad Fitzgerald, a host of Planet America on ABC Australia, and this is an official podcast of the ABC. So say hi to the Ombudsman for me. On PEP, we cover all the stuff that's too nerdy for TV. If you're listening, you can find us on YouTube at the PEP with Chaz and Dr. Dave channel, and you can find highlights there as well. And we're on Facebook at the Chaz from Planet America channel. You also find timestamps and show notes in our blurbs, and if you leave a comment under our current episode video, we're likely to see it. You can also tweet us or blue sky us at PEPCHASDRDAVE. That's at PepChaz Dr. Dave. If you want to chat to some fellow peppers, you can join our Discord server. It's on the screen now or on the blurb of the podcast. It's actually a lot of fun. I recommend it. I do as well. But if you want to contact me or Lockie the Lackey privately, why not email us? The address is producer@pepthepodcast.com. The address again is producer@pepthepodcast.com. And I am replying to the emails now. So use it. And do not forget to subscribe for all that peppy goodness. It all helps. We are recording this at 7:35 p.m. on Friday, Sydney time, which in America, oh my God, on the East Coast it'd be, Friday at 3:30 a.m. So wake up, it's pep time. But for now, let's turn to a brand new guest.
Hey.
Who I have been reliably informed will never raise the stakes on inconsequential views. I'm speaking about Mari Koeck. Hello, Mari.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me on.
Now, Mari, tell us a bit about yourself.
So I'm Mari Koeck. I'm Director of Engagement and Impact at the United States Study Center. So, anyone who's listened to PEP before knows that Dr. Dave is affiliated with the United States Study Center. But he does not speak on behalf of that institution. Neither do I. And in fact, I use his disclaimer on this podcast as an example for what everyone should do when they're speaking in their personal capacity. He nails it and does it really, really well.
He nails everything. The only thing he doesn't nail is eating food that doesn't make you sick. But Mari very, very kindly volunteered to step in for Dave. Dave is, I'm afraid he couldn't make it, which is why also we're doing this at 7:30 at night. It does mean that we can get this out probably late on Saturday. You probably know that already, Peppers. By
the time you're listening.
Exactly. But also it means that Dave is not going to be here next week for the final ep. He's going to be in Melbourne. So actually, that's it for Dave for this year. I'm going to get him to record a little message on his phone to say Merry Christmas to you all. We'll put that on next week's ep. But let me tell you just very quickly about next week's ep. I've done the ring around on all the guests, whoever is available, and we've got 6 available. We've got Jared, we've got Bo, who's now a guest. We've got Bill, we've got Melina, we've got Elle. And with Melina, Melina is she going to be going? She might even get in the studio. We'll see. I think it's going to be Zoom, but still, it's great that she's back. And we've got John Barron by popular request. People love when John's on. He has said yes. So we are going to, because this is meant to be 3 hours, we are going to do 2 parts. We're going to have a part that comes out on probably Friday-ish. We'll see how we go. And a part that comes out probably Sunday-ish. See how we go. But that's next week. But for now, we've got 3 hours with you, Mari.
Woohoo.
And by the way, this is kind of like, what do they call it when 2 podcasts go on each other's? Like you have like a turnaround ep.
Oh yeah, I don't know the term, but we're collabing this week.
Collabing,
that's what we're
there
doing.
You go. Because how long was the podcast I did with you?
Yeah, so I mean, I definitely owe Chaz, and this is also I think a correction I've wanted to put on the record for some time.
Yeah.
A while back, Dr. Dave was talking about the USSC podcast, and you were like, "Why have I never been on the USSC podcast?" And I listened to that episode. At that point, I was like, "I've had Chaz on twice."
I didn't know it was the USSC podcast.
Okay.
I probably should have paid attention.
You're just like, I'll go on anything, sure.
Yeah.
I'm running my own personal podcast. But so Chaz has done 3 episodes on our USSC Briefing Room podcast because anytime we've got this Trump stuff going to the Supreme Court, if it's a really big issue, I want to speak to Chaz more than anyone else, basically, because he's going to get into the weeds and down into the details on everything, and he's going to, listen to the oral arguments. He's going to view the transcripts. You're going to do a deep dive into all the, the history of everything, and so all those details. So I like to be able to tap into that. So so this week you kindly came on the USSC Briefing Room podcast, so we could record one on the Supreme Court tariffs case.
It was like an hour and a half, wasn't it?
Yeah, we went for an hour and a half. I think if you add up all the ones we've done, it'd be 4+ hours. Because the first one we did, I think, was 90 minutes, and I think we did one for 1 hour, something like that. So,
which is long for the USSC briefing room.
Oh
podcast.
yeah, normally we do 30 to 40 minute episodes. We time it for your commute. But for Chaz, I'm like, no, I don't want to limit this. But anyway, I owe you. So you've been very kind and gracious with your time. I'm very happy to come on your podcast.
Thank you so much. And you are right, I do go in the weeds. That's usually why people want to avoid me rather than to want me, but that's okay. Tell us also, I know what, we now know what you do, but tell us your background, because people have heard you have an American accent.
Yes.
Where you from? When did you get here? That kind of stuff.
Okay, so I'm American. I'm also Australian now. I became an Australian citizen a few years ago, so that's very exciting. But I grew up in Minnesota, which is in the middle of the country. It's north, it borders Canada. So Tim Walz is the governor of Minnesota, and he, rose to fame last year as Kamala Harris's running mate. I majored in political science and secondary education, social sciences, and worked different government jobs, had like Senate office internship in the U.S., and then I've spent most of my adult life in Australia. So I worked with federal government, state government, and then in 2020 I landed at the U.S. Study Center, which was a very exciting time to work in a place that was so focused on analyzing the world of U.S. politics. Like, I don't know if Jared has said this on the podcast, but at the end of 2020, I was looking up different trends and seeing what was going on. And in Australia, there was only one term that was Googled more than COVID-19 in the year 2020. And that was the U.S. presidential election. Yeah. So I was like, there was more interest by Australians in the U.S. presidential election than there was in COVID. It was bonkers. And so, I mean, when they merged together, when Trump got COVID in like October, it was insane. So, yeah.
That was... Actually, it's funny you put it that way. I've never thought about it like that before, but that was actually the most chaotic, biggest moment in the history of Planet America. Like,
it was a Friday afternoon.
Yeah, I remember
when it broke and the media phone blew up.
And we just threw out our episode, and we just basically went live.
Wow.
It was because it was like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It was That was wild. In the 13 years of Planet America, that was the wildest moment. But while you're going hot there, Mary, tell me what you're grateful for.
So, I do listen to your podcast, so I know you're like, I have to think about it. It's so hard to narrow it down to one thing. And I mean, it's the perfect season for it, because this is the last episode, I think, that's going to go out before Thanksgiving. Next week is Thanksgiving in the U.S., which is my favorite holiday. And when we chatted after our podcast recording on Wednesday, I think I was saying how, things in America right now are a bit, it's so polarized. I was just back there in October and extremely divisive. And when I was thinking about what I'm grateful for, there was a person who came to mind, and I realized part of what I love about this person is their way to bring empathy into political discussions. So I am grateful for Josh Johnson. Are you familiar with him?
From The Daily Show?
Yeah, The Daily Show guy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I've been following him for a couple of years, like back when his YouTube videos would get 10,000 views or something, and then he just kind of blew up and became huge. Because he was writing for The Daily Show, so he's, clever, writes heaps. And then but while he's writing for The Daily Show, he was also doing stand-up comedy, and so he was putting out these specials and essentially writing a lot of content, a lot of new, fresh content. And it has really taken off. So New York Times did a deep dive profile on him back in April, and they said, in 2024, he did the equivalent of like 28-hour-long specials, like what a comedian would typically do. Is there one new content? And I went and I looked and I was like, he's doing it so frequently. And he's basically doing, this year, he's done 47 unique stand-up content sessions. Some of them are 30 minutes and up to about an hour. So it's not exactly an hour long, but basically he's doing a new set every week that he is writing, and he is touring, and he's going out and performing this, and then he's writing for The Daily Show, then he gets a correspondent gig on The Daily Show, and now he's one of the co-hosts in the rotation lineup that they have.
And I'm not trashing this in any way, but just asking, does he recycle his Daily Show stuff for his?
No,
other
it's
content?
it's
separate.
pretty different. It's
Oh my
pretty
God.
different. I mean, obviously some of the topics are the same because
Yeah,
he'll get
of course,
into
yeah.
you know some of the political stuff, but it's pretty different because on the Daily Show they'll have a team of writers
Yeah.
that are working with that. So his stuff on his stand-up tour, it's all on his own, and so basically it's about one a week, and he's uploading them to YouTube, and I thought like I went back and I was watching a little bit of his clip from his episode the week after Charlie Kirk was shot, which was a time when the political tensions and everything in America were just simmering like so hot, and he didn't use any of the direct words to discuss it, but he was talking about the internet and how the internet is so focused on. You see one thing and you think you're controlling what you are looking at because you're the one choosing to scroll, but really it's these algorithms and they're feeding you things. It's a balance of, some of it's going to be a certain amount of contempt and a certain amount of compassion, but it's all calculated and it's feeding it to you. But you think you know what someone thinks and you never really know. You only have a snapshot. You just have these little snapshots on the internet. And the only way you really know what someone thinks is by talking to them. And so you need to talk to people, and that's how you find out how someone really thinks and how they are and who they are as a person. And he did this in this whole funny bit where he was talking about garbage in New York and how terrible it smells. But I found that a really lovely reminder of compassion and empathy and connecting with people, which I feel like is the remedy to a lot of the online stuff that we see these days. So I have such respect for him because he is working his butt off. Like he probably works similar hours to you, and he's out touring and all of that. I mean, he's incredibly talented. He's brilliant. But the way he's delivers this political comedy but without the snark, I'm very grateful for that.
If you could give us the link of that one you just described, plus any other moments that you think the Peppers might be interested in, I'll whack them in the homework.
Okay.
If you guys have a look in the homework in the blurb, you'll see a whole bunch of Josh Johnson, hopefully, and then you can start your Josh Johnson journey.
Okay.
Thank you very much for that. Okay, well, who I'm grateful for Marie Gluesenkamp Perez, who a number of you won't have heard of, and those who have, you might not like her. She's a House Democrat from Washington. She's in an R+4 district, so she's in a Republican district. Okay, not a super Republican district, but pretty. It's not just a swing district; it's kind of leaning Republican. And she's the first Democrat to hold that seat for a very long time. Unsurprisingly, she's the most Trump-aligned Democrat in the House for that reason, presumably. She votes with the Republican platform about 49.8% of the time. In 2024, that was. Right? So basically, she's one of the very few actual sort of swing voters left. There's probably 3 of them or 4 of them in the House. In particular, she tends to vote with Republicans on trade and immigration issues, and that's why a lot of Democrats hate her. I should say that ideologically, I almost never agree with this woman, because if you think about my politics, Peppers are pretty familiar with my politics by now. I'm very liberal on trade and immigration issues in particular. As a kind of left-leaning libertarian a bit, there are things I'm conservative on, like economics and stuff like that. But things like trade and immigration, I'm just classical liberal all the way. So I don't agree with her much. I'm not into protection, and I'm conservative on the issues where she's kind of left-wing. So we disagree a lot, but I'm still grateful for her. And the reason I'm grateful for her is because she genuinely cares about good government. And I appreciate that. That is rare. She's one of the few people in the House who has spent her whole time in the House seriously pursuing congressional reform. There's about 5 of them. They've got this little caucus that they talk about, proportional representation and stuff like this, and things that they can do, which never happen, but they keep on trying because they haven't given up on trying to make Congress work. And I like that. We're not talking about reforms involving economics or sexy issues or anything like that. We're talking about reforms about political systems. That's what she's into, and I appreciate that. So only people who really care about that kind of stuff. Anyway, there was a controversy last week involving her. Do you know about this?
I heard it, but I skimmed over it for other things.
Great. Okay, so that's good. So I can explain it to you then. Right, okay. Chuy Garcia is a 69-year-old House member from Chicago, a Latino leader, deep blue district. 69, he's a babe. He could be around for 30 more years, but he's not. He's retiring. He has only been in the seat since 2019, relatively fresh, but he's just been having a hard time of it lately in his life. His wife has multiple sclerosis. It's getting worse. They've recently adopted one of their grandchildren after his daughter died. Yes, they've been having a hard time. And he filed a run for re-election anyway on October 27, quite recently. But somewhere around then, we don't know exactly when, he received bad news from his cardiologist about his heart health. And he's thought, okay, it's time to retire, which is fine. No problems. I know he just filed for re-election, but you can't help these things. He decided to keep it to himself for a little while. Yeah, okay, all right. Okay, you could do that, I guess. As of October 31, though, this is where it starts to get a bit dubious. He started gathering signatures for his chief of staff to run for the seat herself. And, yeah, that's okay. If he wants to support his chief of staff, that's okay. You can do that. That's all right. She got the same name as him as well. Not Chuy, but Garcia. Except for here's where he loses me. He gathered these signatures while not telling anyone else of either the fact he was gathering signatures or that he was deciding to retire.
How did he gather the signatures without people noticing?
Well, he would tell the person that he's asking for a signature, but that's it. He wasn't doing it in a really public way. He did say, actually, so it's a good question you ask. When asked about this later on, he said, I kept on expecting to get a phone call from the Hill or something saying, are you retiring? What's going on? Or are you being backstabbed by your chief of staff who's about to primary you? Like he kept on expecting it to get out, but it didn't. They kept a lid on it. And they gathered the necessary 2,500 signatures over 3 days. And then his chief of staff submitted her paperwork to run on November 3, literally just before the deadline. That's when the deadline was, November 3, 5 p.m. And then on November 4, the day after submissions to compete for the district had closed, that was when Garcia announced publicly he wouldn't be running after all. So essentially they rigged the primary to make sure no one else would compete in it other than his chief of staff. To donate this super blue seat to his chief of staff. They effectively coronated his chief of staff. That was extremely dodgy. Now, why does this matter? This matters for a number of reasons. According to the Koeck political report, there are only 16 toss-up seats left in the House.
Wow.
16.
Is this before or after all the redistricting?
That's a work in progress. So it's probably going to be reduced as a result of that. And 18 leaning seats they've got. So 34, the only 34 seats are even potentially winnable from the other side. Even potentially. 8% of the House is in play at this point in time. 92% is rigged. Right? Rigged by the system, not rigged by corruption. But still, rigged. So primaries of open seats are basically the only time you get to have a genuine choice in 92% of seats. And Chuy Garcia just engineered to take away that choice for his seat for potentially decades. Enter Marie Gluesenkamp Perez, who, if you recall, this is about. She was so outraged by this that she immediately launched a disapproval motion against her fellow Democrat in the House on the day that they were trying to reopen the House, mind you. So they had other concerns, but she was just furious about it. She said she admired Garcia, and the reasons for him stepping down she described as noble. But she also said this attempt to thwart democracy just wasn't on. Here's a little bit of what she said.
Representative Garcia's actions are beneath the dignity of his office and incompatible with the spirit of the Constitution. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the House of Representatives disapproves of the behavior of the representative from Illinois, Mr. Garcia.
That speech made her fellow party members furious, as they often are with her. the thing that annoyed them most, to be fair, well, this is what they said, was that she launched this effort on the day the House was trying to end the shutdown. They said, we've got other things to worry about right now. Can't we do this another day? But then they put the vote back to Tuesday, and it made no difference whatsoever. They still didn't support it, and they still wanted her to shut up. Yeah. So I think that was a bit of a pretext. Some Democrats accused her of being intolerant of strong Latino leaders, which is odd because she's Latino as well.
I was going to say, what was the last name? Perez.
Yes. There's a lot of anger. Some tried to stop her from speaking at all. Like they said she couldn't speak because she was wearing jeans. Democratic leadership in the House asked members specifically to not vote for her resolution, and no one tried to defend what Garcia had actually done. No one actually said what he did is fine. They just ignored it. They just relied on partisanship to blag their way through, essentially. And in the end, 23 Democrats voted with Perez, and the rest voted against her resolution. It did get up because all the Republicans obviously supported it because it suited them fine being partisan on this issue. To be fair, this is just a symbolic motion. It didn't make any difference whatsoever. Who cares? He's going anyway. At the end of the day, most people won't even know this happened. Even after I tell you this, you will have forgotten in 5 minutes. But I am just grateful for someone who isn't so consumed by cynicism that they've completely given up fighting for democracy and good government, especially when it's not convenient for them to pretend they care about these things. So, Perez, I am grateful. Thank you. Okay, let's do a little bit of quick correspondence. All right. I had one here that was slagging Dave off, but I don't like to slag off people when they're not here. So it's less fun when they can't squirm in the chair. So I'm going to leave that one.
It'll have to wait for a while now.
We'll have to wait for a while. Smith, I'm talking about your one. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. We got 50-year mortgage correspondence, which is interesting. There's a few people saying the similar kind of thing. It was James, also Miss Rainbowness. I'm going to read out James's one, though. Is the 50-year mortgage such a bad idea? It will reduce the monthly payments, albeit not by much, for people struggling to get on the ladder. Income and house prices, they'll go up. As the buyer has more income to spend, they can refinance to reduce the term and reduce the amount of interest paid in total. Thoughts? So basically, what both James and Miss Rainbowness were arguing about was us saying, look, if you treat a 50-year mortgage like it's a 30-year mortgage and just pay it off quickly, it allows you to get into the market when you might not have been able to get into the market otherwise, and then you just pay off your loan quickly. No problems. So isn't that a good thing? Do you have any thoughts off the top of your head, or should I just go on?
Well, I mean, I've looked at the numbers of these things, but I haven't looked at it. If you pay it off quickly, how is it any different to getting a 30-year mortgage?
I'll tell you.
Okay.
I mean, because that did occur to me as well. Because, I mean, I didn't get a 50-year mortgage, but I did exactly that with my house. I got a mortgage I probably couldn't afford, and I just paid it as fast as I possibly could. I just didn't spend any money. And I saved myself a hell of a lot of interest doing so. So I am aware of this possibility. Not everyone has that discipline, for a start, or the opportunity. I mean, yeah, it's like I was lucky in a lot of respects. I could do that for whatever reason. Also, I was lucky that my highest earning years were when I was in my late 20s. So that helped as well. But also, apart from the fact that most people wouldn't do that, even if you did, you're still a little worse off with a 50-year mortgage and a 30-year mortgage. And I'll tell you why. Because most of the number crunchers are expecting interest rates of 50-year mortgages to actually be 0.5% higher. So even if you treat it like a 30-year mortgage, you're still paying more interest.
What about this wouldn't apply to Australia, where you've got the whole difference between the variable mortgage rate versus the fixed mortgage? Because in the U.S., they're all fixed mortgages. This variable mortgage thing in Australia, oh my goodness, that's a whole different thing. Yes. So I don't think they'll be bringing 50-year mortgages to Australia anytime soon. Probably not.
But well, as you say, with fixed mortgages, there's nothing you can do. If the mortgage rate is 0.5% higher, well, yeah, I suppose you can refinance. But my point is that it's not the same as a 30-year mortgage.
Yeah.
For those who who are thinking, oh, yeah, it's not that bad. It is bad. It is just a little worse.
And the interest is the thing that kills you with it. Like they're saying for like a $400,000 house, in a 30-year mortgage, you'd pay $400 something in interest. And for a 50-year mortgage, you're paying $800 something in
That's
interest.
correct.
Like more than double the cost of the house in interest.
That's correct. Yes. So we don't like them. Pardon correspondence from Aussie Titan. I know you've covered Trump's pardons, Jazz, but I can't remember whether you discussed the financial impact of those pardons. Lawyer Oya, it's a lady called Oya, whose Substack is called Lawyer Oya, says that the financial impact of the pardons is over $2 billion. Money that the victims of these fraudsters will now never receive. Small businesses, small investors, native title holders, etc., who are all awarded financial compensation will now receive nothing. Now, I did go to look at Lawyer Oya to check those numbers because I know she has details, but I'm too cheap to pay for it. And yeah, it was behind the paywall. So I can't check her numbers. But I will say this. That Trump has definitely pardoned people out of a lot of restitution payments. That much is clear. But as far as Lawyer Oya's numbers go, while I can't check them closely, I'm sure look, she seems an honest type. I'm sure that she hasn't made them up. But I will say one thing. The biggest piece of restitution that Trump has forgiven from a ruffian is Trevor Milton with $676 million of forgiven restitution when he was pardoned by Trump. But that wasn't finalised. So maybe that was yet to go through the court process fully. So maybe at the end of the day, the court wouldn't have hit him with $676 million. It might have ended up being less, in which case he's forgiven less than $2 billion, but still damn close.
Yeah.
So the point is, you're right. There's a lot of money that Trump has pardoned from dodgy people paying back to victims. And we should acknowledge that. So thank you, Aussie Titan, for that correspondence. Good one. Pelosi correspondence from Pegendry. Pegendry. Sure. I was reading a New York Times article recently about all the work Pelosi did in the early years to hugely advocate and legislate for AIDS/HIV patients when it was not a popular thing to do. I'm not Pelosi's biggest fan, but I really did admire that. That is a fair point, Pegendry. I didn't go into that last week because I suppose I was thinking, look, she's a member of San Francisco. It was kind of her job to fight the AIDS epidemic in the 80s when no one else was doing so. But you're right. We should acknowledge that. Good on her. She did it. You got any thoughts about any of this? Or just rolling on?
No, I mean, I think, Nancy Pelosi is such an interesting figure. I think you've talked about her on the show before. But the fact that when she would have been doing, work in the AIDS epidemic, like she entered the house when she was in her 40s, right?
Late 40s.
Yeah, late 40s. And her kids were like pretty much grown.
Yeah.
And then this is what she goes out and then she does with her time. She's just a very remarkable woman.
She is.
And even Marjorie Taylor Greene can appreciate things about her.
That's amazing. Marjorie Taylor Greene's complimenting Pelosi. We'll get to her. She's the title of this pod. You wouldn't know that yet, but you will when you see it pop up in your feed. So we'll be talking about her for sure. Let's get into some updates. All right. First of all, I have a shutdown update. Because if we're not talking about it now, we're never talking about it again because it's definitely in the rearview mirror. The votes in the end, 222 to 209 in the House on day 43 of the shutdown. 6 Democrats joined the Republicans, six moderates. Adam Gray, you'd be unsurprised to hear Marie Gluesenkamp Perez was one of the ones who voted to end the shutdown. Jared Golden is another one who would not be in surprise. He's kind of Marie Gluesenkamp Perez's partner in crime. Henry Cuellar, Tom Swazi, and Don Davis. For those who follow House voting, none of those are a surprise. And 2 Republicans voted against the end of the shutdown. Thomas Massey, once again, unsurprisingly, he tends to vote quite idiosyncratically. And Greg Stuber, that's an interesting one. But Greg Stuber had the best reason of all.
What was his reason?
I liked his reason.
Okay.
To vote for the shutdown, to continue, that is. He almost became grateful. Do you remember how last week I told you about that provision that John Thune snuck in to allow senators who had their phone records accessed to sue the government for $500,000 a pop.
Mm-hmm.
There was some talk of a standalone measure in the House to reverse that. They never passed it. That's in the law now. Senators can sue the government for Jack Smith doing his job in trying to investigate the January 6th attempted coup.
Wow. That'll be an interesting court case.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, I don't see how they lose it when you look at the legislation. They've made it pretty slam dunk on purpose. Anyway, this is Greg Stuber talking about that.
Obviously, you put out a statement. Is this going to change your vote tonight?
I don't think I can vote to give $500,000 to Lindsey Graham. So unless they strip it out and send it back, I don't think I can support it.
And so you don't trust the standalone provision the speaker's talking about, do you?
No, the Senate doesn't have. I mean, we can pass it in the House, but the Senate doesn't have to take it up. They sent us that bill. Do you think the Senate's going to take that up? Unless you strip that provision off and send it back, they have no obligation to take that up.
So this really ticked you off when you saw that?
Yeah, I don't think that's appropriate at all.
Good on him. I couldn't agree more, especially about not giving Lindsey Graham $500,000. And that provision's still there. Lindsey Graham has indeed said he intends to use it. Lindsey. He said, it bothers the hell out of me and I'm going to sue. I'm going to create opportunities for others to sue that won't in the Senate. Anyway, that's why Greg Stuber didn't vote to end the shutdown. So there you go. Polling-wise, interestingly, if YouGov polling is to be believed, and these kinds of questions are always a bit vague. I mean, it's always in the wording, I feel. But still, the Democrats, maybe they bailed out at about the right time. Let's have a look at this graph, Dylan, if we could. You can just turn around there, Murray, and you can see it. And for those who aren't watching, who are listening, let me describe it to you. The blame over the 4-week period up to the end of the shutdown, it went from Republicans being blamed by 6 extra points, that 33 to 27, to Republicans being blamed more by 8 points, 39 to 31, to Republicans being blamed more by 3 points, 35 to 32, to Republicans being blamed more by 3 points, 34 to 31. The gap was narrowing. And who knows where it would have gone next when Thanksgiving travel was thrown up and SNAP people started starving.
Yeah, well, and also, I mean, after the New York elections, they no longer looked like these scrappy little underdogs.
Yeah.
It changed the narrative, so I think the polling numbers would have shifted after that watershed moment.
That is an interesting observation I've heard no one say or read anyone say, and I think that is a good call. Nice one.
Well, I mean, they're paying attention to the polls. I just think it's changed how Americans view Democrats and their attitude toward it, and I think that's part of what led to the numbers being reversed of what you'd normally see in a shutdown, where the party kind of causing the shutdown gets the blame. They were lucky to hold out as long as they did, but it was all political calculations. But I think that trend is something they anticipated getting worse for them.
Yeah, well, it seems they cashed in their gains, basically, and the cash in your gains caucus might have been right. At least from those numbers. Who knows?
I mean, they didn't get much for the gains. What gains did they get? Not very much, but it probably would have gotten worse.
Well, I would say, you say they didn't get much. I'd say if you look at all the polls for Trump in the last 2 weeks, I'd say they got quite a lot. They got Trump pushed into the 30s. That's what they got. Yeah. Like Trump's gone from a week or two before the shutdown, he was 42, 43. And now he's anywhere from 33% in one of the polls that came out the other day to there's no poll other than Rasmussen where he's doing better than about 41. Like he is in the 30s now, essentially. So that's what they got.
Yeah, they didn't get Affordable Care Act subsidies.
No, they didn't get that.
Any of the policy reasons.
No, they didn't get that. And they were never going to get that. This is always about politics.
Yeah.
But yeah, so just some food for thought. As far as replacing Schumer goes, which there was a lot of talk of last week, there's been a bit of replacing Schumer talk, especially from Ro Khanna. This is what he had to say.
We have dynamic, young, new leaders.
Who are some of the top
Chris
names?
Murphy is a top leader. Cory Booker is a dynamic leader. Brian Schatz is a dynamic leader. I mean, Elizabeth Warren is someone whose ideology I appreciate. There are a lot of great talent. And really, is Chuck Schumer, when you think about it, just from a common sense test, Do you think Democrats around the country think that Chuck Schumer should be the face of the future of the Democratic Party? Of course not.
I like that little switch up. Yeah. X is a dynamic young leader. Y is a dynamic young leader. Z is a dynamic young leader. Elizabeth Warren, I appreciate where she's coming from. But anyway, yes, I wrote Khan is trying hard. But if you think for 2 seconds, you can see why this won't be happening. Chris Murphy is running for president. Cory Booker is running for president. Brian Schatz, he said, yeah, maybe. He keeps to himself. He wouldn't have the votes. Like, he's not a networker. It's one of the reasons I like Brian Schatz. And, Warren is obviously too old. Even Ro Khanna is hinting at that. Patty Murray is another one that people mention. She's too old. People are either too old or they're running for president. That's how it works in the Senate at the moment. And the fact is, being Senate Minority Leader is a hard job. It's a crap job. It's a thankless job. Ask Chuck Schumer, he'll tell you. And there aren't a lot of people who either can do it or would want to do it. So I can't see Schumer being replaced anytime soon, to be honest. You need a replacement. And I'm not hearing anyone say, oh, this is the obvious replacement. They don't exist. Remember what happened when the Republicans tried to replace Mike Johnson as Speaker? They tried to. You might have forgotten this. And we just sat around for a few days. There was no replacement. So they just voted Mike Johnson back in again. It was a bit pathetic, actually. There's no point creating an issue unless you've got someone worth creating an issue for. And they don't. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely agree because everyone's looking at 2028 and anyone who would be strong enough to be a more compelling leader, well, they'd be, at least at this stage, like, oh, I'm in with a shot, for going for the presidency. It's so wide open right now. So there's no real upside for anyone. And like you said, it's a thankless job. So, yeah, it would take a martyr to step into that role, I reckon. Yeah,
I think you're right. Okay, one of the stories you wanted to talk about was the Ukraine peace plan. Now, I am, as always, I'm about... right now, I'm probably 18 hours behind in my reading, so I know about it.
Have you read the 28 points?
No.
Okay.
They hadn't released the 28 points the last time.
I was like, I think that's less than 18 hours ago.
Yeah, exactly. So there's I've got a lot to learn here. So teach me.
Okay. Well, I mean, I've been looking at like this. Fascinated. I mean, I've been following Ukraine, since the invasion happened, and I just find the whole thing remarkable. And Ukraine this whole year has been so interesting with like the on again, off again, and it's like it's all happening, and then it goes quiet for a while. And then when things started to move this week, where it seemed like everything is trying to, I don't know, distract from Epstein, and everything's happening. So,
by the way, we'll get there. Don't worry, we haven't forgotten that.
We're going to talk about Epstein. Don't you worry. Yes. So this was one of the major things that came. But basically, earlier this week, it broke that the U.S. had negotiated a 28-point plan for peace with Russia. And they were ready to get Ukraine to sign on to this. And say, okay, Ukraine, your turn now. And I mean, there was very little detail initially. So you'd be up to the point where it's like there was almost no detail, right? There was like nothing really shared. The initial reaction is this is going to be worst case scenario for Ukraine because they drafted a peace plan, following direct talks between Trump and Putin, but without the same kind of conversations with Zelensky or other European leaders, right? So that doesn't bode well. And then a signal that may well be the case is that Russian envoy Kirill Dmitriev told Axios, we feel the Russian position is really being heard, right? So if this is, what the Russians are saying after this, before anyone else heard anything about this, it kind of indicates something. And it made me think about how, a good compromise leaves no one happy. Russia seems very happy with this. That's a very smug response to this peace plan. So I was like, okay, but I'm just, waiting to find out what is in this plan and what does it mean from here. The plan was drafted by Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Jared Kushner. And then the U.S. Army Secretary Dan Driscoll presented the plan to Zelensky. And Zelensky has said that he's ready to hold talks with the Trump team. So he's playing ball He's, learned his lesson from February.
Yes.
And I think he also recognizes what a lot of people who are engaging with the, Trump administration realize is if you have an initial freak out over something, it's going to go much worse for you than if you realize so many of these things are fluid. Yeah. They're very, very malleable. So you go with it and you ride the good moment, and all of a sudden, things might actually change the way you want it to. But don't fight it. You just kind of have to go with it and then know that it's all up in the air and loosey-goosey anyway. So that's my take. He said he's ready to play ball. Before I get into the details of the plan, one of my big questions is really why now? Why is this peace deal happening now? And there's a few kind of reasons that people talk about for what's going on with this now. So there's a bit of momentum happening after the Gaza peace deal last month. So they want to keep the good times rolling, and there's actually some stuff in this peace plan that feels like it's almost directly lifted out of the Gaza peace plan. So that's interesting. And they've almost got their template now, and they're like, how do we implement this and do this?
It's probably also a good time for them to switch their attention to another theatre of war as the Gaza peace plan starts to stall out.
Exactly. Just move on to the next thing. It's all about the next announceable. Who cares about the implementation or the maintenance? Right. Yeah. Another huge reason for why this is happening now, and I know that Dave on this podcast before has talked about how the Trump administration's involvement can really, change the balance or change the scales in different ways. It can change how they are projecting, the levers of power and what their position is, and that influences a lot of things. Well, one big thing, lever kind of changed this past week, and this is the big corruption scandal unfolding in Ukraine. It really weakens Ukraine's position right now because they've got to deal with this serious issue. A massive criminal operation happened by the National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine, or NABU, and they invaded, or they didn't invade, they went into 70 residences in Ukraine. They raided them, and these include people with close ties to Zelensky. The key person was, I'm not sure how exactly you say his name, Timer Mindik. He was a former business partner of Zelensky. They were the co-founders of a production company that then, this is found, they siphoned off not Zelensky, but this guy they're looking after. This is what the raids are going after. Siphoned off $100 million through Energoatom. Anyway, it's Ukraine's state-run nuclear energy company. Okay. So they siphoned off $100 million.
Isn't this... Sorry to interrupt. I just could say, isn't... This something a problem I have all the time in this kind of scenario. I don't see how that isn't unadulterated good news. You just go, okay, if you have a anti-corruption system that's so effective, it can take out fearlessly the best mate of the president. Isn't that a great system? It's not like they didn't catch the guy; they caught the guy.
Well, the guy, he disappeared shortly before the raid, the day before the raid. So I don't think they caught him. They caught a whole bunch of other people, and so that's another question: was he tipped off before the raid happened? Sure. He happened to be out of the country.
But just to finish off, just to say that. What you just described there, that would never happen in America. No. Because they're too corrupt.
But
it's just a fact.
So in terms of the anti-corruption, the fact this is a very successful operation. It's not good for Zelensky. Sure. He wasn't targeted directly by this, but it leads to questions. I mean, at least his, close ties with this guy, and there's going to be more investigations into other things. So he is in a weaker position because he could be in hot water. Maybe he's involved. Maybe it has nothing to do with him. You don't know. But just having the shroud of that over you and that question, and that's something that Trump has been looking for allegations like that against Zelensky for a long, long time.
It gives him a pretext.
Yes, okay. It gives him all he needs, right? Okay. So and so this moment, that wobble is okay, now we can do something. Gotcha. So it changes the dynamics, and whether Trump's team saw this as an opportunity or what the catalyst was, maybe some other country was this is the time to push for something. Something happened. It's really changed the dynamics, but they've acted on it.
Can I give you one other possible reason for the timing?
Yep.
Which is just, look, this might be overly cynical, but we live in a cynical world. For people who follow polling, and politicians are right up there. as far as people follow polling goes,
You'd hope so.
they would know that pretty much the only thing that Trump's not sucking in at the moment in terms of his individual characteristic polling is foreign policy. Like, even immigration now is just stinking it up for him. And he would be thinking to himself, this is my strength at the moment, foreign policy. And he would be more aware than anyone that he is dropping into the 30s. And he would be thinking to himself, what I need to go to my strong suit, which right now is I'm the peacemaker. Where's there some peace that I can make? And so I could see that coming out of the shutdown, coming out of this period which is not good for him, he'd be thinking it's time to get some numbers on the board, and this is the way I do it.
And what news could be bigger that it could gazump the Epstein stuff? And,
Exactly.
there's all these reasons why, Also, another critical reason is that winter is approaching. And in the, Russia-Ukraine conflict, like, winter it's bitterly cold. It's really hard. It's a very brutal time for this war. A lot of people thought that a year ago there'd be some peace happening because they thought neither side would want to suffer through another winter. So winter is coming. It's hard to get actual numbers on like the casualties in this war so far because both countries are closely guarding their data. But I found a CSIS, that's the Center for Strategic and International Studies, a think tank in DC. I found a report from June of this year that found that Russia may have lost up to about 250,000 soldiers, whereas Ukrainian fatalities were somewhere between 60,000 and 100,000 soldiers. Russia is losing more than double the number of soldiers that Ukraine is, but I think Marco Rubio was the one who said earlier this year, they've got more meat to grind. That was his quote talking about the Ukraine war. Winter is when a lot of it's just terrible for the soldiers. It's terrible on the field. So part of it would be both sides would be inclined to not endure another difficult winter. So
makes sense.
I think a lot of factors play into this. So do you want to know about the peace plan?
Please.
Yeah. So right now, just this morning, Australian time, they released the 28-point peace plan. Now, I'm not going to go through all 28 points. I mean, I can if you want me to, but I figure you don't want me to. It's online. And also, I would put an asterisk next to all of this and say it's likely to change. One thing I think is different from the Gaza peace deal is with the Gaza one, they talked to Netanyahu and they're like, he's on board. And then they basically went to, the Palestinians and were like, sign this as is, sign it. This one, it does seem more like they're open to negotiating and talking, which is what's going to happen with Zelensky and other European leaders now.
Well, the other difference between this and the Gaza peace plan is that with the Gaza peace plan, they had a whole bunch of Hamas's buddies in their corner, like Qatar and so forth, pressure them and convince them and make them see inverted commas reason. In this case, where obviously in Russia's corner when they're with the planning, but they've got no one trying to convince Ukraine. Like Europe is the equivalent of Qatar in this situation, and Europe doesn't want to have a bar of this. Yeah. So it's going to be a lot harder to convince Ukraine than it would have been to convince Hamas, especially given Hamas was defeated and Ukraine is not defeated. Yeah. So it's going to be. There's going to have to be some arm twisting, that's for sure.
Yeah, so I mean, this will be interesting. I don't think it's going to go over as quickly and easily as the Gaza deal did, but we'll see. Things are shifting, dynamics are shifting. So the plan talks about recognizing Ukraine's sovereignty, but the second point, and I'm going to quote this directly, is a comprehensive non-aggression agreement will be concluded between Russia, Ukraine, and Europe. All ambiguities of the last 30 years will be considered settled. Full stop. End of sentence. So we're going to, no more aggression, but basically anything that they've done, everything that Russia's done wrong, any ambiguities of the last 30 years, they're considered settled.
How do you do that? You can't do that, can you? You can't just declare an ambiguity settled. You need to actually say what the settlement is. Otherwise, if everyone goes, well, You think it's that. I think it's that. Let's just agree that it's settled and let's just walk away. Huh?
Yeah, I mean, it feels a little bit like, I don't know, Calvin Ball from like the Calvin and Hobbes things where it's like, just make up the rules as you go along. It's like, this is the rule now. This is what it is. It's very unclear. It does say Russia can't invade any neighboring countries, but it also says NATO will, quote, NATO will not expand further. No NATO expansion. This is written into the agreement. Then there'll be a dialogue between Russia and NATO, moderated by the U.S. Ukraine will get security guarantees. Doesn't really get into detail about
Doesn't say what their security guarantees are.
That's what they have to have conversations about. Ukrainian armed forces will be limited to 600,000. Currently, I think they're around 850,000. So basically, they're reducing Ukrainian armed forces in the text of this plan. I'm sure Russia's very sad about that point. Ukraine will enshrine in its constitution that it won't join NATO. Like, they're hitting this NATO point over and over and over in the peace plan. Ukraine will not be part of NATO. NATO will not expand. Anyway. They talk about, no NATO troops in Ukraine. It moves on to rebuilding Ukraine.
Yeah.
So it talks about some of the things for rebuilding Ukraine, but it's not that much detail. But then for Russia will get reintegrated into the global economy. So this involves lifting sanctions, the new U.S. economic cooperation, and they get to rejoin the G8. So it's like, congratulations, the war is done.
Yeah.
Everything's happy. You're back part of the global world order.
I suppose if I actually had a proper peace deal, sure. The issue is the peace deal, isn't it?
Yeah, and they talk about what they'll do with the frozen Russian funds invested in stuff. And the U.S. and Russia will extend their non-proliferation nuclear treaties, which is, I guess, good to hear after all the nuclear saber rattling that's been happening. Ukraine's nuclear power plant will be, the power from it will be distributed equally between Russia and Ukraine, 50-50. And it says like 50-50 in there.
From Ukraine's power plant.
Well, I should have looked up. I think in where the map lines might be redrawn, they might be giving that territory to Russia. So the territory, they say, so Crimea, Luhansk, and Donetsk, they will call de facto Russian. So those are big regions on the eastern side of Ukraine. De facto Russian means they are Russian. They're going to be recognized by the U.S. as Russian. Those are Russian.
Does that mean that Ukraine is giving up territory that hasn't been conquered yet?
Well, yes, I think some of it is.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so because they're basically giving up these whole regions, and Russia had gotten like parts of. Okay.
If they're giving up entire oblasts, then yes, they're giving up territory that hasn't been conquered.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Then they're talking about Kherson and Zaporizhia, frozen along the line of contact. I don't entirely understand what they mean by that, and they're just kind of like saying there's like a dotted line here, but they are saying that Ukraine will be forced to withdraw from the part of Donetsk they control. So Ukraine, I think they reclaimed part. I think Russia had claimed Donetsk, and then Ukraine got part of it back, and they're saying Ukraine, you got to get back out of that part that you reclaimed. And that's going to be turned into a DMZ, but it will be recognized as Russian. So, anyway, they're giving big, huge chunks to.
This is all de facto recognition, yeah?
They're calling it, the U.S. they're calling it de facto recognition, and they're saying the U.S. will recognize it as Russian.
Just for the peppers who aren't following this super closely, that's an important distinction. Because de facto means that, the U.S. can say whatever they like, but Ukraine doesn't have to pretend, doesn't have to concede that it's Russian. And that's going to be an important thing for Ukraine. Yeah,
well, it's going to be this ongoing issue. Like it doesn't feel fully settled. It feels like there's just an asterisk.
Oh no, I heard that all the ambiguities have been settled.
Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot. All the ambiguities are settled. So that's how they get through that loophole. It's de facto, but no ambiguities, all done and dusted. Yeah. There'll be Ukrainian elections in 100 days. Yeah. And here's one I'll directly quote: "All parties involved in this conflict will receive full amnesty for their actions during the war and agree not to make any claims or consider any complaints in the future." End quote.
Does it mention the kidnapped children?
It talks a little bit about it, like saying there'll be a process for returning civilians.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
At least they acknowledge that. Okay.
Yeah. They'll return civilians, including kids or whatever.
Is
But
anything there about either peacekeeping forces or about Europe putting forces in Ukraine?
So it says that there will be security guarantees for Ukraine.
Just random security.
No
guarantees.
NATO troops in Ukraine.
NATO's not Europe.
No.
Yeah.
There will be European fighter jets in Poland.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but the security guarantees for Ukraine, it's pretty vague on, which it makes it sound like they're going to need to talk about that. So I'm sure that's what Zelensky's going to want to talk about, but it's very unclear. In the
It's going to come down to that. I mean, look, like Zelensky's made really clear for more than a year now that there are probably, there are limits, but we'd probably be surprised how much territory they'd be willing to give up if they can absolutely guarantee that's the end of Russia trying to take pieces away from Ukraine.
Yeah. Well,
that's the question.
Russia, under one of the points is that Russia will enshrine non-aggression in their law.
Yeah,
so they're going to enshrine in their law. That's going to solve that problem right there.
That will get rid of that ambiguity.
Yeah.
It'll be settled immediately.
Yeah. So it's you should read it. Read the 28 points.
I will.
It'll be interesting. But really, what does all this mean? It's not a great starting hand for Ukraine. It's not the final deal, but they're not in a very strong place. But the negotiations will happen now, and this push for a resolution and push for it. It made me think a little bit of when parents. You're a parent. When parents get sick of kids fighting over something and they're just going, and they're just like, just stop it, just stop fighting, stop.
Yeah.
And when you get to a point where you're like, I don't care who's wrong, I don't care who started it,
Yeah.
I don't care what it ends it now, not another word. Like it's giving that vibe of like, we just want this done, just done, end it and be done. It's feeling like that, but it'll keep going with all these negotiations and as Europe gets involved.
Well, that's where we were on day one of the Trump administration as far as Trump was concerned.
True.
But that is fair enough. And look, I think we know where this is going, though. Even though I haven't read these conditions yet, I think you don't even need to know the specific conditions to know where this story goes next, which is Russia has shown an absolute unwillingness to compromise in any way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
So if there is any kind of potential compromise to be had on anything, Ukraine will, because Zelensky's not an idiot, he'll go for the lowest hanging fruit and go, well, what about this?
Yep.
And Russia will say no. And Zelensky will go, will point to Trump and go, what about this? They're not even negotiating that. This is so reasonable. Come on, what's going on? And then Trump will chuck a tanty.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know what happens after that. We just go around in circles again. But that presumably is where we're going.
Yes, I think that's apt. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah, Russia, they don't like conceding much, do they?
No, well, because it's working for them not to.
Yeah.
Like, why would they if so far it has, worked in their favor if they haven't had to concede?
Well, the reason why is because they could have, if they'd conceded tiny amounts at some point in time before now, they could have had a 90% victory with Trump in their corner. If they'd picked one of those moments when Trump was putting his thumb on the scale as hard as he possibly could, and they'd just made tiny little concessions, they might have been enough to tip it over. And they've never bothered to make even the tiniest concession. The only thing I have to add to this, because I said I'm a little bit behind on this one, but I did find funny when I was first reading about the initial stages of this. It was first reported by Jared's favourite reporter, Barak and, from Axios. And there's a tweet where he said, "Scoop, US secretly draft a new plan to end Ukraine war." And Steve Witkoff responded to that. Here, you can see here. He must have got this from K. I can only presume that K is standing for, what's the guy's name? The
Kushner? Kirill.
Kirill.
Yeah.
Dmitriev. Yeah. He must be referring to that. He must be.
Yeah, I mean, why is he responding on Twitter?
That's the thing. Steve Witkoff is such an idiot.
Was this meant to be forwarded to someone else?
He's trying to send a text message, and he's accidentally tweeting. That's what he's doing. That's what's going on there. That is the guy responsible for the negotiation. So that was all I took away from it. Yeah, I could just imagine Zelensky seeing that and just his heart just sinking, just going, "Oh, what am I doing?" Oh God. Okay. Look, I don't have much to add because I am uninformed, but it sounded to me like you covered it pretty well. So thank you very much for that.
No worries.
I appreciate it. Okay, well, I'm going to do my other update, and then we'll get into Epstein. Okay, we'll get into Epstein, but first, the other update. The other update is a Comey update. All right. And can I just make a reading suggestion? People often ask me for reading suggestions, and I don't usually give them, but I'm giving one this time. If you care about this kind of stuff, Department of Justice stuff, Comey type stuff, Halligan type stuff, Pam Bondi type stuff, Eagle Ed Martin Jr. type stuff. If you care about that kind of stuff, let me recommend Empty Wheel. It's a blog by Marcy Wheeler. That's emptywheel.net. I'll put it in the homework. It is, Marcy Wheeler is an independent security reporter. She's very much of the left, and she can be quite snarky, I have to say, but she's also brilliant. She's very, very knowledgeable, technically brilliant. She finds stuff that literally no one else finds, and she will often say things days before the judge says it in the case that she's talking about. She's got a really good eye for this stuff. She's very, very good, and she's obsessed with nuance. So if you want to read stuff about Department of Justice issues you will simply not read anywhere else, I recommend Empty Wheel. Let me put it this way. There are times when she's just too nerdy for me. I'm just going...
Really?
Yeah, I've got to skip a couple of paragraphs. This is too dense. Like she really gets into it. She's very, very good. And she has a podcast as well, if you feel like we're not nerdy enough for you. She's an example of someone who is utterly irreplaceable. And she, like, at least in my reading, I find her so valuable. So there you go, Empty Wheel. She's written a lot about this stuff. That's why I brought her up. A few things that have happened over the last 2 weeks in the Comey space. First of all, there's a genuine concern that Halligan was not legitimately appointed. I did flag this a few weeks back that this is on the cards, and there's every chance that she's going to lose the court case over this because other US attorneys have lost a similar court case already. Bondi has now made her a special attorney just in case she wasn't legitimately appointed as a US attorney, and she's backdated that appointment to September 22 to try and cover when Halligan indicted Comey. So that way, if she's invalidated as US attorney, they don't lose the indictment because they're obviously out of statute of limitations now, so they can't mess around. Yeah, that's not going to work. That's really not going to work. If the court says she wasn't validly appointed, it's not going to fix it to say, oh, we'll backdate an appointment now to back then. She actually was appointed 3 years ago. Oh. That's not going to work. I do suspect, though, that even if the indictment fails, under certain circumstances, they might be able to re-indict him even after the statute of limitations. There are laws that say under certain circumstances you have 6 extra months to refile an indictment if for various technical reasons it falls apart. So
technical reasons like you didn't have a valid lawyer who brought the case.
That's an example.
Okay.
I actually think if that's the only problem, and that's a big if. If that's the only problem, I think they'll get away with that.
Okay.
I will say that. And I've seen in newspapers them not realise that. And them say, oh, if she's invalidated, that's the end of the indictment. I don't actually think that's the case. I think they're wrong. So I'm going on a limb there, but people like Marcy Wheeler have convinced me. That's the kind of thing she points out. But anyway, it does add to the Keystone Cops vibe of the whole thing. Though. Much more importantly, we've now got more details about the Comey indictment. There were always question marks about this, so we just go, what the hell is this about? They've finally provided some details. All right. And there are more details than we thought, I have to say. Still very insufficient, but there are more than we thought. And if this case ever happens, I can tell you more about what might be the actual issues as a result of that. So we know they're accusing Comey of deliberately lying to Chuck Grassley back in 2017.
Okay.
Yeah, back in 2017, under oath, about authorizing they're saying he lied about authorizing Jonathan Richman to be an anonymous source while he was at the FBI.
And now we know who that person is.
Yes.
Which before we didn't know who.
No, we didn't. Now, it was no secret that Comey was using Richmond to defend him. Seen as in a 2017 New Yorker piece, Richmond was referred explicitly as a close friend of Comey who has served as his unofficial media surrogate. So it's not like it was a secret, right? His role was very well known. And both Grassley and Cruz, when you actually go back, and I'm not going to waste your time now, but I've played it enough times. You can go back and have a look yourself. Both Grassley and Cruz were clearly not talking about Richmond. They were clearly talking about Andrew McCabe when they were asking questions, obviously, at the time of questioning. But let's ignore that. Let's give that to them. Okay, let's say, no, really, they're talking about Richmond. Sure, okay, let's pretend. Let's pretend they were asking about Richmond, and let's pretend that Comey knew they were asking about Richmond, because even if they were asking about Richmond, but he thought they were asking about McCabe, then there's no case. Because he needs to know that he is lying intentionally, right?
Yep.
Okay. What did he actually say in 2020 about his 2017 testimony? Because they're trying to leverage what he said in 2020 to get what he said in 2017 back under the statute of limitations. Okay, what did he say? He only said one thing, and I'll tell you what it was. I stand by my earlier testimony. That's what he said in 2020, right? Now they're saying, that means if the 2017 testimony is inaccurate, then we got him. Because he said he stood by it, so he's kind of refreshed it. But that's not necessarily the case. He didn't say the earlier testimony was correct in every particular. He just said he stands by it. That's a different thing. And when you're talking about lying, every little detail and nuance counts, right? So his 2020 testimony is thus literally true, whether or not the earlier testimony was accurate, as long as he, in fact, did stand by it. And he did. So there's no case of him lying in 2020. And that's all the statute of limitations allows to be examined. So he's home free. This is an argument that his defense are planning to use. That's one of many arguments.
Yeah, they've got options.
They have many options. But look, let's say they use that argument. The judge says, I'm not copying that. That's not good enough. Okay, fine. Let's say the judge dismisses that defense entirely. Let's look at their evidence now, because now they've finally provided it. So we now know what they're talking about. They've provided a bunch of emails and texts as proof between Richmond and Comey. Now, I should say, many of these appear to be inadmissible because they've really stuffed up their evidence collection. This is another thing that Comey's lawyers are having a field day with. They didn't have a warrant when they got a bunch of this stuff. They misused it. They had people who weren't covered by previous warrants. They've really stuffed it up. There's a chance they won't be able to use any of the evidence I'm telling you. There's at least some they definitely won't be able to use. But let's pretend all the evidence is good. We're doing a lot of pretending here. But let's pretend all the evidence I'm about to tell you is good and it's all admissible, even though it's not. On November 1, 2016, they've got an email from Comey to Richmond saying, when I read the New York Times coverage involving reporter Michael Schmidt, I am left with the sense that they don't understand the significance of my having spoken about the case in July. It changes the entire analysis. Perhaps you can make Schmidt smarter. So that's Comey dispensing Richmond to talk to Schmidt. Richmond replied the next day, this is precisely the case I made to them and thought they understood. I was quite wrong. Indeed, I went further and said mindless allegiance to the policy and recognition that more evidence could come in would have counselled silence in July to let Clinton twist in the wind. And then later in the day, Richmond wrote again, just got the point home to Schmidt. Probably was rougher than you would have been. They published a new article after that, and Comey wrote to Richmond that the article was, quote, pretty good, adding, someone showed some logic. I would paint the cons more darkly, but not bad. And Richmond replied, see, I can teach. Comey wrote, well done, my friend.
This is reminding me of some of the Epstein emails.
Yes, there's that vibe, isn't there? That flavour. Okay, firstly, I just read you about what Halligan was quoting there and going, oh, look at this smoking gun. Where's the bit where Comey told him to be anonymous? Because according to them, he lied about an anonymous source. That he authorised to be an anonymous source. I see nowhere where Comey's saying you need to speak anonymously to Michael Schmidt. Just convince him. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing. So they don't have that. Secondly, I don't see anywhere where it says that he's authorising him to be a source. He's asking Richmond to argue on his behalf, to be an advocate. That's not a source. Mm-hmm. That's an advocate. That's a different thing. I don't see anywhere in there where he's authorising him to be a source. So that's two parts that they have to prove that they can't prove from this email, from this email chain. Also, they completely took that exchange out of context. The full context at the end involved Richmond saying, see, I can teach. And I just did more teaching with Megan Fox and Anderson Cooper. Wore a jacket this time. And Comey replied, like they said, well done. So Halligan just took out the bit where he was talking about going on TV.
That's not very anonymous.
No, it's not, is
Fox.
it? Not very anonymous at all. That's exactly the point I was about to make.
Oh, sorry.
No. Don't apologise. No, that's what I'm saying. Like we're on the same page here. This is not proof, even if they can use it, and they won't be able to use it. But it's not going to get there. February 11, 2017, Richmond emailed Chuck Rosenberg, who was acting head of the Drug Enforcement Administration at the time. He wrote, my pal at the NYT, Mike Schmidt, it's always pro Mike Schmidt, is, along with Matt Apuzzo, Adam Goldman, and Eric Littbau, doing a huge piece on the Clinton emails. He's had a ton of background conversations with players and non-players like me. Mike would have very much liked to talk to you exclusively on background as he tried to understand Jim's decision-making to the extent possible. Mike asked me to reach out to you, hence this email. Would you be willing to chat with him? Rosenberg said he would reach out to Schmidt. They published a piece on April 22, 2017 that quoted Richmond by name. I think you can see where this is going. They quoted him by name, not anonymously, describing him as a long-time confidant and friend of Mr. Comey's. Comey wrote the next day to Richmond, I read the piece. Thanks so much for your words. And tell Schmidt he did a good job. Would be different if I wrote it, but it is by and large fair. Richmond replied, you're ever so welcome. And will do, Mike. And any badly or underdeveloped points for me to work on with the New Yorker, or just the usual? On May 11th, 2017, an article came out in the New Yorker which quoted Richmond by name, not anonymous, describing him as a Columbia law professor and close friend of Comey who has served as his unofficial media surrogate. In all of that there, Richmond was never an anonymous source. They used his name every single time. Remember, the reason this is so important is because what Grassley and Cruz asked him about was whether he authorized an anonymous source. And he suggested he did not.
And is that the part where they were specific about it being a government employee source?
Yeah. Someone at the FBI.
Yeah.
I haven't got to that yet. I will. No, that's good you picked that up because that's another important element. Right? My point is that if there's anything in the chain that's broken, then he didn't lie because he wasn't talking about Richmond. If Richmond was never an anonymous source, then he can't have been talking about Richmond, right? So all this is crap evidence, even if they could use it, which they can't. And also, there was no evidence then that he was authorized by Comey to be the source. He just went and did it. He just went and did it off his own bat and then went back to Comey and said, do you like?
Yeah.
Like, if at best he was authorized in hindsight, not in advance, at least from the evidence. And by the way, he resigned from being a special employee of the FBI on February 7th, 2017. So that entire time I just read out, he wasn't at the FBI. So that's the point you made. Even better, Lawfare reviewed the said documents procured by a Freedom of Information Act request from the Daily Caller. And they found that Richmond's first term working for the FBI was between January 30th, 2015 and June 30th, 2016. and a request to reappoint Richmond was not approved until December 2016, and government records indicate he didn't sign his reappointment papers. And included with the FOIA materials is an FBI official's handwritten note stating doc drawn up plus sent to OGC for Richmond's signature, never signed, never officially reappointed after June 2016.
The amount of incompetence, the amount of stuff that we see that, and I have a feeling this is what will come out in more of the Epstein files and things, is the stuff that people have conspiracy theories about or think is so shady. So much of the time, it's just straight up incompetence.
Yeah.
Just so much of the time. I mean, yes, there's smart people working in D.C., but there's a lot of people who just, when it's written for TV and movies, it comes across so much more polished and smart. And then you read the actual emails and it's like, it sounds like a high schooler was writing something for drama class and, these two, they're plotting this and how are they going to, correspond about this article? It doesn't feel sincere or genuine. It feels like they're trying to be something they're not. And it's not cool. What they're being is not cool.
You're right, Mari. It's not cool. So, bottom line, he wasn't at the FBI for any of these emails and texts that they're not going to be able to use anyway. If his case ever happens, there is no case. This is just not going to happen. But that's a big if, because Comey's lawyers now have literally about 15 reasons why they believe this case should be dismissed without a trial. They're just adding up. Like, for instance, the main prosecutor admitted he was told by someone in the office of Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche to not admit the former interim U.S. Attorney Eric Siebert left a detailed memo explaining why they rejected placing the charges. Remember, the argument is it's a vindictive prosecution. And so they were deliberately ignoring reasons to not charge him. That's saying that you were told not to tell anyone that there was that memo. That portrays just a little bit of bias. But this week, I'll be very quick on this because this is just going to continue on and on and on. This week, the big issue, it began when Comey's lawyers and one of the judges noticed it didn't seem like they had all the grand jury transcripts when they specifically asked for all the grand jury transcripts. And this is odd because Pam Bondi had certified she'd reviewed the material facts of Halligan's jury presentation and approved of everything that happened in the grand jury hearings. And that's odd because no one seemed to know what actually happened in the grand jury hearings. There seemed to be missing bits. So then they revised the transcripts, they added a bit, and then Pam Bondi recertified it. You could say that she settled all the ambiguities. Steve Witkoff would be proud. But the judge thought there was still a bit missing, even though Halligan swore there was nothing missing. And that's when it became clear that the reason that part wasn't there was because it never happened. Let me explain very rapidly the indictment snafu. Originally, there were 3 charges in the indictment before the grand jury, and the full grand jury approved 2 of the charges. They rejected the 3rd charge. So the original 3-count indictment was rejected. What they should have done then was to present the grand jury with a new indictment containing only the 2 charges they'd already approved of. They would approve of that, and then they'd be on their way.
Yep.
But Halligan knew what she was doing because she'd never done any of this before. And so instead, they just prepared that new indictment with only 2 counts, and they just had the foreperson of the grand jury sign it in the presence of one of the other grand jury members, and they let the rest of the grand jury go.
Oh.
In the words of one of the judges who heard this case, if this procedure did not take place, then the court is in uncharted legal territory in that the indictment returned in open court was not the same charging document presented to and deliberated upon by the grand jury. If she didn't represent the new indictment to the full grand jury, well, that would explain why they submitted the new indictment, all signed and done, only 7 minutes after they learnt the 3rd charge had been rejected, which is what made the judge suspicious in the first place. And normally, when you do something like that, when you submit a different indictment from the one that you showed the grand jury, you go to jail and you're disbarred. And obviously, the charges are dropped.
Yep.
In this case, there was nothing malicious here, clearly.
Yep.
just, as you say, incompetence. And the grand jury, if we're being fair here, they did as good as approve the 2 indictments. We're talking a technicality here. Right?
Yeah.
So it's possible they may get away with it. I don't know of a precedent of anyone being this dumb before. So
Uncharted legal territory.
That's right. So maybe they'll let them get away with it. Maybe this will be enough to throw the whole indictment out. Because it is, technically, they should throw the whole indictment out. We're going to find out in the next few days. But that's where we're at. That alone may be the end of the Comey case. If they get past that, there are a bunch of other reasons they might throw out the Comey case. And if they get through that, then they've got no evidence, probably. And if they get through that, then the evidence doesn't prove anything anyway. This is a joke on the joke on the joke on the joke. This is like, this is a circus. This is a circus with a tiny, tiny clown car and a lot of clowns.
I was really looking forward to hearing you go over this because this is exactly the kind of legal weeds. I love it. You follow that clown car, you follow that surface, and then you dissect it all so we can understand. Because I've been following some of the coverage of it, but you lay it out so clearly. I heard when the judge was asking about whether the grand jury had reviewed the full document and then found out that hadn't happened, that it was just like you could hear a pin drop in the court. It was just silence and like no one said anything just for ages. Like it's just like, what do we do here?
Well, I hope I cleared things up there because it is a little bit complicated. And I assure you that listening to me say it is less complicated than listening to Marcy Wheeler tell you about it. But she's got the details that I have not brought because I'm trying to keep it easy to understand. All right. Let's stop teasing people. It's Epstein time.
Okie dokie.
All right. Let's start off. Mari, do you have any surface level thoughts before we get into sort of topic by topic?
Surface level, I find Epstein a rather unpleasant topic to talk about.
I can understand that.
I realized because I write the newsletter for the USSC every week on Wednesdays. And there were so many weeks where Epstein was like the big news story. I was like, oh, I can only really pick one kind of main topic to focus on. I found myself picking other topics, and I was like, oh, I probably can't ignore Epstein anymore. And I thought about it for a while. I'm like, why? And I was like, oh, I think I just have a natural aversion. Like, it's just like when you get into the details of all of it, it's just a horrible thing. And so the interesting thought of these emails being, exposed and reading all of this, like the more you read, it's just like it's been less. I mean, in the emails that we've seen so far, because we haven't seen the FBI documents and all of that yet, which will be a lot more salacious. These are just personal emails from the estate. The cringe factor is less about the different sex abuse and horrible things that went on. It's the cringe factor right now is these conversations that are happening, like the Larry Summers stuff and the Steve Bannon stuff. And you read these emails, and then the ick factor from that is so strong.
Oh my God, the Summers ick factor is very hard to replicate.
Oh wow. Anyway, so I find the whole topic, it's interesting, it's important, it's especially interesting in terms of what it has done within the MAGA movement and the Marjorie Taylor Greene stuff. Very, very interesting. I don't know where all this is going. I don't know how long Epstein is going to be the big news, but we've got some big news and we definitely need to talk about it.
Absolutely. Can I just say, by the way, that we will mention Larry Summers coming up, but if ever there was a poster boy, because he went to MIT when he was like 16. If ever there's a poster boy for don't advance people too far past their social age in academics, because being able to socially catch up is also important as well as academically. He is the poster boy for that, because my God, you read that and you go, he's 14. He's like Tom Hanks in Big, except for he's in this sloppy 65-year-old's body. And he has no fun. There's no dancing.
There's
on
not the piano. There's not the piano. Trampoline in the apartment.
There's none of that. There's just financial instruments. Okay. All right. Let's start off then. What did we learn from last week's emails, Mari? You like to kick us off? I mean, I've got all my notes, but I've been doing a lot of talking. So
No, you go first. I mean, I've got thoughts on the Larry Summers stuff. I can share Larry Summers if you want me to start with that, but you go first.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, look, I'll just go bit by bit quite quickly, and you can add anything you have, okay? So I found a lot of the emails extremely underwhelming. So let's rail through some of the underwhelming ones fast.
Yeah.
The Knew About the Girls email. This is the 2019 email where Epstein wrote of Trump. Of course he knew about the girls, as he asked Ghislaine to stop. That could mean anything.
Yep.
And it's more than accounted for by Trump's own admissions weeks ago that he told Ghislaine and Epstein to stop poaching girls from Mar-a-Lago. He's already gone on the record saying that.
Yeah.
So that doesn't seem like a big deal to me.
Yeah.
I mean, it could mean something worse, but prove it. Like it's just too vague, I think. So to me, that's underwhelming. The Dirty Donald email. I find this incredibly underwhelming. Epstein wrote in 2018, "You see, I know how dirty Donald is. My guess is that non-lawyers, New York biz people, have no idea what it means to have your fixer flip." Do you notice how whenever all the newspapers read that one out, they just left it as, "You see, I know how dirty Donald is"? Because they didn't want to read the bit about the New York business people have no idea what it means to have your fixer flip, because that gives some idea of the context of what he's talking about, which is, this is when Michael Cohen flipped and testified against Trump in a hearing into what became the hush money scheme. That's what he was talking about. So he's clearly referring to Trump being a dirty businessman, not sexually dirty. Completely underwhelming. Yeah.
And so many of these things, like it could be interpreted different ways, and it's just everyone's been frothing at the mouth for something salacious, and so they're taking little things and making them sound like the big thing. I mean, I think the DOJ files probably will have some interesting stuff, whether it's about Trump or other people, who knows. But what we're seeing so far, I completely agree. There's a lot of ambiguous and like weird references to things, but it's. Is there there? I'm not sure.
He has certainly not settled any ambiguities. Wyckoff will be extremely displeased with that. The Thanksgiving email. Epstein was asked where he was having Thanksgiving in 2017. He replied, Eva, presumably referring to his ex-girlfriend Eva Anderson Dubin's place, because they mentioned other people there and they were all related to Eva Anderson Dubin. He was then asked who else is down there. He replied, David Feisal, Hanson, Trump. And she said, have fun. It's not clear whether he meant those other people had been down to Eva's at some point in time, or if he was hoping they'd be there, or he was just lying, which apparently he does a lot. Either way, Trump wasn't there on Thanksgiving. He was visiting the Coast Guard. We have photographic proof. So let's not worry about that. And if he was visiting with Epstein in 2017, I think we'd know. He was president, and Epstein was quite controversial at that point in time. So I reckon it would come to our attention. He was receiving presidential level security. He couldn't have got away with it. Anyway, the blowing Bubba email, I don't know I'm wasting time, but, look, it's my job to just tie up all these loose ends. From 2018, Jeff was emailing his brother Mark. Mark asks, what's your boy Donald up to now? Jeffrey says Bannon's with him. And Mark responds with, ask him if Putin has the photos of Trump blowing Bubba. Jeffrey says, and I thought I had Surus, which is the Yiddish word for troubles. Mark says, you and your boy Donnie can make a remake of the movie Get Hard. They're joking about prison rape. That's what they are doing, okay? Yeah. Mark Epstein has since released a statement that says they were simply part of a humorous private exchange between two brothers, and for the avoidance of doubt, the reference to Bubba in this correspondence is not in any way a reference to former President Bill Clinton. I don't care even if it was. It's clearly a joke. No one seriously thinks that Trump gave Bill Clinton a blowjob, surely. And that if he did, they'll be joking about it like that. Yeah. With prison sex references. Yeah. That's clear. It's clearly a joke. So let's not worry about that. The dog that hasn't barked email. This is a 2011 email from Epstein to Ghislaine. Epstein says, I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Victim, whoever victim is, spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned. Police chief, etc. I'm 75% there. Then Maxwell writes, I've been thinking about that. Now, to me, this is the only email with respect to Trump that is potentially serious. Yep. Potentially. Because I can obviously see a world where they're talking about an Epstein sex abuse victim spending hours with Donald Trump in Epstein's house alone. That is deeply serious. Okay, so that's potentially serious.
Well, and I think also for me, the fact that you've got, Ghislaine Maxwell's response
Yes.
in this,
Yes.
which shows, I mean, it could be she's just a, sycophant, or she's just saying something that she thinks Epstein wants to hear here. I'm not sure. But if she's saying, I've been thinking about that, and it's unclear to me what the dog that doesn't bark exactly means. It could be interpreted different ways. But, it could have... It could mean he knows something that he shouldn't, but he hasn't said anything. If Ghislaine Maxwell is saying that she's been thinking about that, and yet we had her testimony recently, and where she's like, no, I never saw anything inappropriate, and there was never anything wrong, and it was all good, and Trump is amazing, and da-da-da-da-da. And then she gets her, beautiful transfer to a new facility, and, everything's good after that. Ghislaine Maxwell's response there, and what she said not long ago in her testimony, and then the perks and benefits she's gotten since then, that to me is the most direct. I don't know. There's something there that I think, unlike the other ones, which is, talk about ridiculous things.
I agree. The Ghislaine Maxwell factor is definitely worth considering, for sure. And I agree with your other conditions. It totally could be her just going along with the lie. It could be her just... Epstein's the alpha in their relationship. She says yes, sir, to whatever he says.
Yeah.
It could be she witnessed Trump doing this and lied to Todd Blanche when she said, I don't recall ever seeing him in Epstein's house, for instance. She may have never witnessed it, but she may knew it actually happened, in which case she kind of lied by omission. There's a lot of options there. That is true. On the Trump angle of it, though, rather than the Ghislaine Maxwell angle on it, it's hard to know what to make of this. When he's talking about the dog that hasn't barked, he could mean Trump has a lot of legal concerns, or it could mean he just has bad press concerns. Because at the time when they wrote that email in 2011, Epstein was going through a bad news cycle. So he could be talking about either case from that wording. I'm going to talk more about this email a little bit later, but for now, let's think about that victim for a second. The White House has specifically said the victim mentioned in the emails Virginia Giuffre. The Republicans on the Oversight Committee also say it was Virginia Giuffre. They also say the name wasn't redacted when they got it.
Yeah, well, and she's passed away, so I don't think they have the same victim protections where they would have to redact her name.
And also, Virginia Giuffre's name was unredacted in other parts of in other emails that came out.
Yeah.
So that is a bit suspicious. If it is Virginia Giuffre and that was redacted, the Republicans are suspicious. They say Democrats redacted the name before releasing it because they wanted to, because they know that Giuffre is well known as having denied that Trump ever slept with her or even flirted with her.
Yeah.
And so they say, right there, well, Dill's got it up already. Why did Democrats cover up the name when the estate didn't redact it in the redacted documents provided to the committee? It's because the victim, Virginia Giuffre, publicly said she never witnessed wrongdoing by President Trump. Democrats are trying to create a fake narrative to slander President Trump. Might be true, might not. I don't know. We can trust any of these people, to be honest. But I will say this. Giuffre was quite firm in her denials. This is her sworn deposition from 2016. I'll read it out to you. When have you met him, Trump? At Mar-a-Lago, my dad and him. I would say they were friends, but my dad knew him and they would talk all the time. Well, not all the time, but when they saw each other. Have you ever been in Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein's presence with one another? No. What's the basis for your statement that Donald Trump is a good friend of Jeffrey's? Jeffrey told me that Donald Trump is a good friend of his. You never observed them together? No. Not that I can actually remember. I mean, not off the top of my head, no. When did Donald Trump flirt with you? He didn't. That's inaccurate. Did you ever see Donald Trump at Jeffrey's home? Not that I can remember. So she's pretty firm on that.
Yeah.
Now, to me, I think she would remember if she spent hours with Donald Trump.
Yeah.
In anyone's house, especially in Epstein's house. So I would say either the mentioned victim isn't Giuffre or Epstein's lying, which he did do often.
Yes, he certainly did.
Yeah. So in terms of the options of what this means, there is one other option we haven't discussed. And this is what I actually think it means. I haven't seen anyone else say this, so I might be wrong.
Let's hear it.
I want you to realize, I'm going to read it again. I want you to realize that that dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Victim spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned. Police chief, etc. I'm 75% there. Once again, I'm focusing on the bit that no one talks about.
Mm-hmm.
Police chief, etc. I'm 75% there. What the hell does that mean? No one's tried to explain that.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I think it means. I think it means that Epstein believed in 2004 that Trump dobbed him into a local police chief, Michael Reiter, in revenge for Epstein beating him out to buying a property that they both wanted. Now, I didn't make that up. We know that Epstein believed in 2004 that Trump dobbed him in. Right, we know that. And Epstein believes that is what started off all the investigations. At least he believed. He's dead now. So here in 2011, Epstein could easily be saying, everyone's talking about me in the press, but they never talk about Trump when he has his own skeletons. That police chief who was all over me isn't so interested in Trump, and it makes me 75% sure that Trump is behind this, and he told the police chief this shit, and that's why the police chief is not on his ass. I think when he says, I'm 75% there, he's referring to, I'm 75% sure that Trump dobbed me in to the police chief, and that's why he's never once been mentioned. That's what I think it means. It's because that at least makes sense of everything that we've got written there, whereas other explanations don't make any sense for other bits and pieces. Yeah, and so I think he thinks when he's writing this that Donald Trump is telling stories about him. That's what I think is the point about this, and that sounds like the kind of conspiratorial self-righteousness that I've come to expect from Jeffrey Epstein as well. And so I wouldn't take his accusations as literal accusations. Like if that's Virginia Giuffre behind victim, I wouldn't take that as a literal accusation so much as an expression of anger against Trump. Going, this guy is, he's spreading all this shit about me, and he just spent hours with this person, that person. He's just making shit up because he's angry.
Yeah.
He's venting to Ghislaine Maxwell about how much bastard Trump is because he dobbed him in. That's how I'm seeing that. Might be wrong, but that's how I'm interpreting it. Anyway, we don't know. And we may never know. But importantly, if I'm right, then the chances of Trump taking any risks with Epstein after 2004 are vanishingly small. Because Trump would have known that Epstein was a bit sus on him.
Yeah.
Especially when he's considering running for president from 2011 onwards. So we should bear that in mind with some of the other accusations that are out there about things Trump supposedly did with Jeffrey Epstein after 2004. So yeah. All right. The main thing, so those are the emails I've just railed through, the ones that I'm just disregarding for whatever reason. I think what we mostly learnt from the emails was actually not about Trump. It was about Epstein's relationship to non-Trump people. Which makes sense because the emails are mostly from the 2010s. Trump was kind of busy in the 2010s.
Just a little bit.
And he wasn't even friends with Epstein in the 2010s. Epstein and Trump had long broken up. Trump famously doesn't email people anyway, so why would he be in the emails?
Yeah.
By contrast, when an old frenemy of yours becomes really, really famous, and you and all the people you talk to all know the frenemy and have an issue with that frenemy, you're never going to stop talking about that guy, are you? Of course you are. So all the emails are about Trump. They just don't give you any useful information about Trump. They gossip.
Yep.
And venting and, and just jealousy, essentially. As far as a point of comparison, Trump appears in 1,670 out of 2,324 email threads.
Oh, my gosh.
And just to be clear, these email threads weren't selected because they're involving Trump. They were just all the email threads they could get. And Trump was in 1,670 out of 2,324 of them. That's all they can talk about. Bloody Trump.
Wow.
And you think we talk about Trump a lot now. Clinton was in 512, Summers was in 117, and Michael Wolff was in 207. So there you go, is your point of comparison. Now, Michael Wolff. There's a lot about Michael Wolff, not just talking to Epstein a lot, but seemingly giving him advice on how to handle the media.
All this PR gaming out that they're doing with all this stuff. Anyway, it's a bit weird.
Well, a lot of people are giving Michael Wolff shit about this. And I think we should consider what Wolff has to say about it, and then I'll ask you your thoughts.
Okay.
All right. He says, I'm a writer. I get access. This is all quote, by the way. I would say not by doing anything, not by doing anything, but by occupying a lot of grey areas. I get access to what New York Times writer's name inserted clearly does not have access to. That's what I bring to the table. Do you want that access? Do you want that view? The way you're going to get that view is through someone like me. If you don't want that view, well, you can disregard it. But I continue to think it's a vital one, especially in this moment, at this point in time, when power is becoming ever more consolidated, when the protections around power are ever more fierce, the institutional journalism community standards outside of that. They're not making the sausage. There is no sausage. They produce nothing. They have no insight into these rooms that I've managed to get in. It was literally do what you have to do to stay at the table and to be able to keep the recording button pressed. I would say it was not markedly different from the way I regard spending 7 months in the Trump White House. Like, okay, these are not my people. They're never going to be my people, and I don't really understand them, but I can certainly get along with them, not least of all for the purposes of trying to understand what's going on here, or at least getting a clear picture of it. I found some audio of him talking about it on a podcast too. Here we go.
Remember what's going on here. I am in this, I am where no one else is. I am in proximity to a story which actually most people don't see at this point.
So in these emails, what strikes me is that you're frequently giving advice to Jeffrey Epstein about how to handle the media, how to use the media. Were you his media advisor?
But, this was always a major thing. And this was actually, part of the reason, part of my entree here, that I knew about the media. That gave me the kind of cachet that got me a place at the table, which has gotten me the Epstein story, if anyone wanted to pay attention.
So what do you think?
So my reaction, having worked in media world for a while and in various iterations, is like just the thing that was going through my head a lot was that every organization I've worked with, government, it could be like small government, local government, big government, whatever. Every crisis that comes up, everyone feels like their thing is the most important thing in the world. This is the big, crisis that needs to be dealt with, and everyone should pay attention to this. And all the media managers get into gear of here's how we're going to spin this, or here's how we're going to do it, and here's how we're going to make everything amazing through great PR, whatever. It just reminded me of being in some of the war rooms of someone, whatever the crisis is, and people they love feeling like their thing is so important. Their thing is the center of the universe, and the media people are going to solve it. It's the media approach that's going to save the day, and that's back in the West Wing era, it was a rousing speech that changed all the policy issues and what. It's just this view of media is going to fix everything, or media is the center of everything, and I just found myself flashing back to different conversations I've been part of, and just how the media people feel like, yeah, this is the most important thing. That was the vibe I was getting, and he was just talking so much about how important and critical he was, and that's all he seemed to care about, is the influence and the cachet that he had as part of that.
It's interesting you say that. That's a really interesting observation, because, my first impulse was, look, I don't care if you backstab Jeffrey Epstein. I care if it affects your writing. And Wolff says it doesn't. Wolff says you ingratiate yourself so that people, your subject, will talk to you. I think you draw the line at what you write. Ingratiation stops there, he says. And if that's the case, then I guess fair enough. But then I look at his email from 2016, right after the Access Hollywood tape came out, the famous pussy grabbing tape. And it makes me think about what you just said then, about wanting to be important, wanting to be part of the story yourself, really.
Yeah.
It's headed, now could be the time. And the email says, there's an opportunity to come forward this week and talk about Trump in such a way that could garner you great sympathy and help finish him. See, that doesn't look to me like he's trying to get a story there. It looks to me like he's trying to destroy Donald Trump. And that's what makes me nervous. Because, some of the most important pieces of evidence that we have about Trump and Epstein come from Michael Wolff. Like, for instance, this.
Epstein, in one of these emails, confirms or says Trump knew about the girls, and he damn well did. I have seen the pictures of the girls, of again, a dozen snapshots, 3 of which I vividly remember, 2 with topless girls sitting on Donald Trump's lap.
Okay, if that's true, if that photo exists, or those 2 photos exist, that's a smoking gun.
Yes.
Of Trump at least knowing about Epstein's activities and approving of them to the extent that he can have a bit of a laugh and participate in them.
I mean, do we know if these girls he's referencing, are they underage girls or not? I don't think
we don't know, but he's implying that they are, isn't he?
He's implying that, but I mean, it's a critical distinction.
No, I agree. This is my point. This is exactly my point. Do we believe him?
No.
Or is he? Or is we thinking this guy just wants to destroy Trump? He will intentionally create ambiguity where it's not there. He will intentionally mislead you into thinking he's talking about something when he's talking about something else, or he'll just make something up entirely.
And he's careful with his words. You know, you get these media types, they're just really silver-tongued, right? And so they know how to lead you a certain way without saying the word that would actually get them in trouble. I mean, kind of like Comey's emails. Like, he maybe wanted a certain outcome, but he was never saying a single word that would actually, be true. Like, it's going to be hard to say that he's wrong on any of this because he didn't say he authorized something or anything like that. It could be that it's all true. It could be that everything that Michael Wolff is saying is true. I have a credibility issue with him. I don't know how much I can trust him, and for one of the big reasons being that he seems very biased because he seems like he had a motive to get Trump for whatever reason. So it undermines what he's saying. It may totally be true, but I can't just take him at his word on it.
I couldn't put it any better myself. That is exactly my sentiments. Okay, yeah, it might be true. He might be telling the truth, but I just find it very difficult to trust this guy. So yeah, anyway, that's my take on Michael Wolff as well. Okay, then we get to your buddy Larry Summers.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so I mean, so he
Go for it.
I thought your point about the reason you don't like advance kids beyond their emotional maturity. It's a very smart guy. Former U.S. Treasury Secretary, and he was president of Harvard. And as of what's been revealed in the emails this week, he's stepping down from his role as an instructor at Harvard. I didn't realize he was still an instructor at Harvard. I was like, oh my gosh! And he's quitting the board of OpenAI. He's doing a lot of reflecting. By
the way, he wasn't going to quit the board of OpenAI until they made him, and he wasn't going to quit teaching until they started investigating him and basically made him as well. Originally, he was just going to step down from public,
speaking and engagements.
Basically, his sacrifice was going to be removing himself from the places where people would ask him embarrassing questions. That was going to be his sacrifice.
Yeah. Very selfless of him, really.
Yes. But then they drove him out.
Yeah. I mean, that makes me think of the Nancy Pelosi thing. Power is never ceded. It's never given up. It's only taken from you. They had to take it from him. So Trump this week, then he truthed a Harvard Crimson article about Larry Summers.
Oh, that was a great article.
Oh my goodness. And I did not think I would see Trump truth a Harvard Crimson article, non-ironically or not being like, this is terrible, everything wrong with Harvard. I was like, oh my gosh. I saw that. I was like, well, I have to read this article. It was well written. It was good. We please put it in the homework.
Yes,
highly recommend that. I did not have Trump truthing that on my bingo card for this year. But so Summers texted and emailed with Epstein between November 2018 and July 2019, right up until the day before Epstein's arrest for his second jail term. He didn't start corresponding and engaging with Epstein until long after he had served time previously.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, this is just wild to me. So Summers, he's been married since 2005. I think he's still married as far as I can tell. Sounds like he is. Yeah.
He is. Yeah.
Oh, long-suffering wife. He was seeking advice in 2018 about pursuing a relationship with someone that he considered a mentee. And so then who do you go to for, relationship advice, a convicted, sexual offender. That's who you get your relationship advice from.
Yeah, if you wanna ask about younger women, there's the expert for you.
Gosh, I know. It's just all of it
Larry
reeks.
Summers.
And the messages, contain, discussion of, his speculation about, men's and women's innate differences, which is part of what led to him, losing his position as the president of Harvard. He's saying, and that, maybe that's why, women are underrepresented in, fields like science. They're just, women are different. And it's like, and even so that would happen a long time before these emails. So if he's bringing this up, about like 10 years later, my goodness.
It's quite bitter, yes.
Yeah. So the article gets into that it's not clear if anything actually ever happened with Summers and this woman. But he's continually. This goes back into the high school theme. I mean, this is the theme of this episode. It's just like high school drama written by high schoolers, and it's like unfolding real time. But the high schoolers are all in their 60s and stuff. He's asking for advice. Epstein says that he'll be his wingman and helping with all of this. And this woman and the Harvard Crimson article says who they're pretty darn sure it is, even though it's not like confirmed anywhere. They're pretty darn sure where it is. Like, Epstein's forwarding emails from her where she's asking for advice on a paper or something, and then instantly Summers is getting the, she's asking for advice, professional advice on this paper or something, and instantly, Summers is forwarding it, and Epstein's like, oh, you can use this to your advantage, or, oh, she's still desperate. I don't know, I'm sure you've got the exact quotes, but it was, anyway, the whole Epstein and Summers email correspondence, it just, like I said earlier, it gives me the ick. And so far in all these emails, as far as I've heard, I mean, I haven't read all 20,000 pages, but there hasn't been anything that's come to light where it's that clear smoking gun of something where it's like, oh, so-and-so should be convicted right away. I haven't heard anyone come with any of that. It just seems like a hell of a lot of really, like, creepy, gross conversations between two white guys.
This is definitely gross. I mean, Summers referred to her as Peril, both because she's dangerous to him and also because she's of Asian background. So referring to the Yellow Peril.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. And I suppose also they bonded, I guess, because Epstein's an ex-maths teacher, I guess, as well, which probably was probably part of it. They were making maths jokes, like not good ones as well. Summers was asking about the probability that he'd end up in bed with Peril. It's just, oh no.
This when I was in high school. This will be a shock. Everyone's just meeting me for the first time. I was a nerd. I was definitely a nerd, and total nerd in high school. Totally different to now. But with my friends, we created these like notebooks that we would write messages back and forth to each other in these notebooks, and we created our own codes for how we wrote in these notebooks. So, sometimes we'd write backwards, or we had the one where, A equals 1 and blah, blah, blah. And so you'd write it all in numbers and memorize all these codes, or writing these messages back and forth, mostly about, I don't know, boys we liked or whatever. Felt so cool. Writing a message in code in this notebook, and we would, covertly sneak the notebook back and forth to each other, and you'd take it for a turn. You'd decode the message somewhere, and then you'd write your own coded message and give it back. And this just is reminding me of like how cool I felt for knowing all the letters, backwards, or how I felt so cool in that. And it's like, it didn't really matter to anyone but how it made us feel. And I feel like the way, Peril, oh my gosh, like the way they talk in all these emails, or the Steve Bannon ones, where it just feels like they just want to feel cool.
Yeah, a real cool kids club happening there. Okay, I just want to just cite 3 emails quickly. That's really all I'm going to say about Larry Summers, other than gross. There's a 2017 email the Democrats like a lot, where Epstein told Summers, I have met some very bad people, none as bad as Trump, not one decent cell in his body, so yes, dangerous. They love that one. I actually think this also means nothing. I'll tell you why. Look at the thread. I put the whole thread up there for you. Epstein is having a dig at Summers' ex-boss, Obama. And Summers replies, he didn't wreck the world and avoided scandal. So that's when Epstein responded about how bad a person Trump was. It was in contrast to Obama as president. That's why he called Trump dangerous dangerous as president. So I don't think it's actually got anything to do necessarily with sexual behavior. It's got to do with his moral character, like as just fitness for presidency, for the presidency. That's the first thing. The second thing is there are two emails where I just go, oh my God. He joked in the 2017 email about when he lost the Harvard presidency in 2006 for, you mentioned it before, speculating about differences between men and women in science. This is what he said. I observed that half of the IQ in the world was possessed by women without mentioning that they are more than 51% of the population. So, I mean, he's obviously trying to be clever there, but he's obviously insinuating that women are stupid still.
This many years later.
Yeah.
He's finally found a buddy he can talk about that with. He's like,
Yes.
Epstein. Epstein's the guy I can share my true feelings about this with. He won't judge me.
Epstein will get this. And this is my favourite one. Is a quote from Summers. I'm trying to figure why American elite think if you murder your baby by beating and abandonment, it must be irrelevant to your admission to Harvard. But hit on a few women 10 years ago and can't work at a network or think tank, and then caps. Do not repeat this insight. I love that. Firstly, he calls it an insight.
Thank you for your wisdom.
About how you can't even have hit on someone 10 years ago before he then goes back to asking the sex predator his advice about how to hit on Peril. Do not repeat this insight. Anyway, that's Summers. Do you have anything else to add on Summers?
No.
Less said about him, the better. Bannon, you've already brought up.
Yeah.
This one's weird. It's like, I mean, no one's been beating the Epstein conspiracy drum harder than Steve Bannon, and he's all over it.
Yeah.
He's in it.
Yeah.
It turns out he himself exchanged hundreds of messages with Epstein, not in 2004, in 2018 and 2019, when everyone knew exactly who this guy was. They were giving each other advice. Epstein was coaching Bannon on his media appearances, and Bannon was advising Epstein on his media strategies. I should say Bannon's identity is anonymous, but at one point the phone number was not redacted, and it's the phone number that Bannon uses. So we know it's Bannon, and all the context clues check out as well.
Yeah.
And this was at a time when Trump wanted nothing to do with Epstein. And yet there was Bannon. What was he doing?
Well, so this feels a little bit like, to me, a few things going on, but one of them is, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Like, this is after Bannon was, shown the door at the White House.
Still sucking up to Trump at that point.
Still sucking. Also just strikes me like he wants relevance. He wants relevance and he wants attention, and it's almost like he's like hedging his bets, or he's like betting on both sides of things, like wherever he can get that. And I think also something about Epstein must have drawn people in. There's something about talking with him where they felt like, oh, this is a confidant, or this is someone I can talk to in this way. And it seems to me from the emails, people enjoyed the feeling of this, like, covert conversation or this plotting. Michael Wolff was doing it. Like, all of them, like, people seemed sucked in and enjoying having that kind of, conspiracy discussion. And like, so one of the things, Bannon was saying as they're gaming out how, Epstein can respond to some of the media and criticism, manage his public image, and Bannon said, this is a sophisticated op.
It's so Bannon.
Yeah, it really is. So I feel like it was a bit like he was disgruntled with Trump and frustrated and looking for relevance, and I don't know, and maybe he was looking for information as well. But I think there was just something about it that appealed to him, and he was enjoying the gaming out of all of this. I think they liked feeling like they could strategize together.
That makes sense. Now, I might get into trouble with our listeners here. This is the kind of thing which I get worked up about. This is where I'm the Marie Gluesenkamp Perez of this podcast. And I bet some of the peppers aren't as worked up about this as I am, but Stacy Plaskett gives me the shits. I spent some time on her on Planet America. I haven't looked at the comments yet. I'm betting some of the comments are going, Chaz, can you just settle down about Stacy Plaskett? But just, like, I feel like what's going on. It's not just the situation. Everyone makes mistakes, whatever. It's how the Democrats have dealt with it since it came out that particularly annoys me. It's just so blatantly hypocritical.
Yeah.
And just so undermines any idea of actually caring about Epstein and what he stands for.
Yeah.
All right, let's go through this quickly. Plaskett's the Virgin Islands non-voting delegate to Congress. Stacy Plaskett, she's a Democrat. She's had a long-time relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Bear in mind his island is in the Virgin Islands. Okay. She was the general counsel for the Virgin Islands Economic Development Commission for 5 years, between 2007 and 2012, right in the Epstein zone. And they were being generously donated to at the time by Jeffrey Epstein. She was an attorney at Kelleher's Ferguson Croblan, the firm that handled Epstein's taxes and helped him purchase the island. In the 2023 deposition, she was asked if she ever did any work for Epstein or Epstein-related business while at the firm. She said, I don't recall. She has received campaign contributions from Epstein for years. She was at one point named in a lawsuit accusing her, amongst others, of having facilitated Epstein in his ongoing sex trafficking operation by ensuring Epstein received preferential treatment and unfettered, unmonitored freedom while in the US Virgin Islands. There was an email, they dropped that lawsuit after a while, by the way. There was an email from her last week as well, from July 2018. Pretty late in the piece there, July 2018. This is from her herself, her personal email here, her Gmail, saying, if you would share this invitation with Jeffrey, I'd be much appreciative, because he's going obviously one of his helpers. I would be grateful for his support and the support of those that he may direct to assist me. I'll be in New York City the Thursday of the event through the weekend. So she wants to personally meet with Jeffrey Epstein to hit him up for a donation.
Yep.
That's what she's sent that from her personal email address. So that's not just some mailing list. That's special treatment.
Yeah.
And then the big bit is the hearing. We discovered through the release of some Epstein texts that he was not only having a text conversation with her during the Michael Cohen hearing while watching it on TV, but he was feeding her a question to ask. Now, we should say, once again, her name is redacted during these text messages, but when you watch the video, pretty clear what's going on. At 10:02 a.m., Epstein texts Plaskett, great outfit. At 10:22 a.m., he texts, you look great. Thanks, she replies soon afterwards. 10:40 a.m., Plaskett is seen on TV to chew. Next minute, Epstein texts her, are you chewing? Not anymore, she replies. Chewing interior of my mouth, bad habit from middle school. At 12:50 p.m., Epstein asks, how much longer for you? She says, hours. Go to other meetings. 2:25 p.m., Epstein texts, Cohen brought up Rona, keeper of the secrets. Rona? Plaskett responds. Quick, I'm up next. Is that an acronym? That's his assistant, Epstein replied. Then, at 2:28, 2 minutes later, let's listen to her question for Cohen.
Mr. Weisenberg and other individuals, Ms. Rona. Who are those individuals? Are they with the Trump Organization?
They are.
Are there other people that we should be meeting with?
So Alan Weisselberg is the chief financial officer.
You got to quickly give us as many names as you can so we can get to them.
Yes, ma'am.
Is Ms. Rona, what is Ms. Rona's position?
Rona Graff is Mr. Trump's executive assistant.
And would she be able to corroborate many of the statements that you've made here?
Yes, her office is directly next to his, and she's involved in a lot that went on.
And for those who are watching the video, you can see that 2 minutes later, Epstein texts, good work. Now, it's not that she got a question in particular from Epstein that makes me so angry. It's the whole context. She's clearly his friend.
Yep.
She knows who he is at this point in time. This is July 2018.
Yep.
is her justification. During the hearing, Congresswoman, this is a statement from her office, Congresswoman Plaskett received texts from staff, constituents and the public at large offering advice, support and in some cases partisan vitriol, including from Epstein. As a former prosecutor, she welcomes information that helps her get at the truth and took on the GOP that was trying to bury the truth. The Congresswoman has previously made clear her long record combating sexual assaults and human trafficking, her disgust over Epstein's deviant behaviour, and her support for his victims. Well, she certainly expressed that disgust in a fairly mild way on that day, chatting sociably with him throughout the hearing. Plaskett does have a response to that kind of critique, though. She says she didn't even know that Epstein was like that at the time. That's what she says. She said, I got a text from Jeffrey Epstein, who at the time was my constituent. It was not public knowledge at that time that he was under federal investigation. This is July 2018, okay? Apart from the fact that it'd been 10 years since he'd been jailed for soliciting underage sex at that point in time, she'd already been made aware of his proclivities in 2016 when she was the subject of a local controversy in the Virgin Islands. For taking money from Jeffrey Epstein, despite who he was. That's in 2016. But she refused to disavow him at the time, even though at the time Epstein's island in the Virgin Islands was dubbed Pedophile Island. That's in 2016. I should also add that by 2018, there were plenty of rumours of further investigations. I knew about them in Australia, so I think she should have known about them in the Virgin Islands. And finally, this is what she told CNN.
I believe that Jeffrey Epstein had information, and I was going to get information to get at the truth. Having a friendship with him is not something that I would deem to have. And so I'm just looking forward. I'm moving forward. And I think that that's what we as American people should do, is move forward. If individuals are not involved in illegal activity, extending his criminal enterprise or his financial enterprise or all of those things, I think that we need to look at what people are doing moving forward.
Wait, let me just better understand that. What is that point? Because at the time he was a known sex offender and it had been detailed all the sexual abuse.
There are a lot of people who have done a lot of crimes, and as a prosecutor, you get information from people where you can.
We're just moving forward. A lot of people have done a lot of crimes, Mari.
You could have told me Trump said that, and I would have believed it. Like, I'm just focused on moving forward. A lot of people have done a lot of things. You know, I'm just focused on moving forward.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. It was a very Trump-esque defense. I hadn't even thought about that. I mean, look, her career was as a prosecutor, but she wasn't being a prosecutor here. She was just asking. She was one of many politicians just asking a couple of questions, filling in some time. And before that, obviously, Epstein was chatting about how great she looks, why she seems to be chewing, etc., etc., etc. Am I alone here? What do you think?
Oh, I mean, the whole thing is like, creepy, but I feel this is exactly what I was thinking. Is this incident really shows how, politically calculated the whole thing is for the Democrats. I mean, both sides are going to suffer political damage as a result of the release of the Epstein files, and they were comfortable, like they knew about, there'll be Bill Clinton in there and Larry Summers and things. They knew about that, and they were willing to throw them to the wolves and whatever. And when you've seen, if you see the responses when they were questioned about her engagement with Epstein, they just pivot and do the politician thing where they don't answer the question. They just use some other talking points about something else. They don't acknowledge it at all. And they could have done something, to show the heart. Or like I mentioned, from my grapefruit earlier about wanting to see empathy in these things. This is a moment for empathy, and all of the Democrats and Republicans, whoever's speaking about this, of everyone but one person in Congress voted, to support the release of these files. In their comments, they could have some empathy in talking about that. And that was visibly absent from, the Democratic responses here, and the way they could just skip over that and ignore that really feels not just political, but it feels like it would be insulting to the women that they say they're trying to help.
Oh, you said that perfectly. I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm going to play in full. You're talking about Hakeem Jeffries.
Yes.
That's what you're talking
yes.
about. Where Breonna Keller on it wasn't Brianna Keller. It was the Alabama lady. What's her name? It doesn't matter. CNN anchor got him 3 times in a row.
Yeah.
And he refused to even interact
Yep.
with the question.
Yep.
And one of the times he hid behind the victims, which was particularly cheeky, I thought. Let's watch all 3 times that he avoided the question.
And you heard Stacy Plaskett there. She was arguing her texts with Jeffrey Epstein were not illegal. But in your view, were they appropriate?
Well, Stacy Plaskett is not accused of violating any House rule, any law, any statute, and she's clearly and unequivocally denounced Jeffrey Epstein. And I think what the survivors fought for today is the type of transparency that came out of the House, went through the Senate, and is now on its way to Donald Trump's desk, where hopefully he'll sign it into law, because at the end of the day, all the American people are asking for is just the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, which is why these Epstein files that Donald Trump and his administration has been hiding for months need to be released.
But do you think it was appropriate for her to be texting with Jeffrey Epstein 11 years after he pleaded guilty?
I mean, I have not had a conversation with Stacy Plaskett to discuss this issue, because we've been focused today on making sure that there was a decisive vote as it related to the Epstein files and the release. I'm thankful for the work of Representative Massey, of Ro Khanna, but most importantly, the survivors.
Do you plan to talk to her about it?
I think that we successfully defeated a resolution that lacked any basis, was not credible, and was being brought by an individual who was trying to weaponize this issue to reinvigorate his own failed gubernatorial campaign in South Carolina. It was rejected on a bipartisan basis on the floor today. That's the end of the story.
Are you inspired by that as a alternative to Mike Johnson as the Speaker of the House, Mari?
I mean, this is their moment, and you know, I think this about a lot of in the Senate. You know, the candidates who are could be vying for Senate leadership, but they're vying for 2028 presidency slots. Like, this is a moment where Democrats can find a chance to inspire, or and you talked about Zoran Mamdani on your podcast, and how he just reads as like genuine, right? And he comes across as authentic. I have not heard a single Democrat speaking about the Epstein files where one of the top 10 words I would use to describe them was authentic. Interestingly, you hear Thomas Massey talk about them, and he comes across far more believable and relatable as he's talking about this. And I'm sure he's got a whole bunch of other motivations, because they're all politicians and there's a lot of politics involved in this. But the Democrats had a real opportunity here, and they could capitalize on the wins they had in the elections a couple weeks ago to really build out their messaging about, the Democrats are, a party with heart, a party that cares about people, a party that protects people. And this is just another part of that. They could have done so much more with that, but I feel like they've chosen a politically calculated route toward power, and they're focused on that. And I think it's a missed opportunity, and it's going to cost them at some point.
I don't know if it's going to cost them, because I think there's calculation all round, but I agree it's a massive missed opportunity. And can I just say, because every minute I've been talking about Plaskett, I can just feel certain peppers just clenching up. But can I say a couple of extra things, so just in my defense for why I'm obsessed with this? First of all, we are very unlikely to get to the bottom of serious sexual abuse from these Epstein files to the extent that they come out, because if we had it, those people would be charged. The fact that they weren't charged means at best what we're likely to get are lots of enablers. Enablers like Stacy Plaskett. The enablers are what, if you want to take people down, they're the people who you will be able to take down potentially from the Epstein files. Potentially. Maybe not. But the people who have been looking after Epstein for decades in return for cash, those are the people who will present themselves over the next few months. And the very first one that pops up, you're getting Hakeem Jeffries with the dead fish stare, just throwing out bullshit. yes, she hasn't committed any crimes. I'm not saying she should go to jail. I'm saying at least she should get censured. At least. That's not really a consequence.
Yeah.
But it's just at least acknowledging that what she did wasn't morally perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Can we do that? Can we just acknowledge that she made a moral mistake? Can she acknowledge that she made a moral mistake? Like, that's it. That's all you need to do. Like, it's just, but they won't even do that. And if we're not going to do that, if we're not going to accept responsibility, even at this level, why are we bothering? Why are we wasting time and not talking about healthcare or something else? Yeah, but that's the first thing. But the other thing I want to say is what happened in the House. Do you know what happened in the House? Because this is the most depressing part of all.
Okay.
This is the height of cynicism. They want to censure her in the House for this conduct. I don't blame them. You'd think it would be easy to censure her because the Republicans have a majority and partisanship would rule.
Yep.
They didn't have the numbers.
Really?
How did they not have the numbers? 3 Republicans voted no. Lance Gooden, Don Bacon, David Joyce. 3 voted present. Jay Obernolte, Dan Musa, Andrew Garbarino. So that meant that they missed out 214 to 213. Just by one vote. What a coincidence. It was just by one vote. Now you might be wondering, what is going on here? Why were these people supporting her? Let me read you a tweet from journo Brianna Morello. Republican leadership wanted to save Congressman Corey Mills tonight, so they blocked Stacy Plaskett from being removed from the House Intelligence Committee. If Plaskett was removed, Dems were expected to immediately bring a retaliatory resolution to censure Mills. One congressional member telling me Republican leadership sent 3 Republicans on a kamikaze mission to save Corey Mills. Dems were going to target Mills because of the restraining order that was granted by a judge last month for one of his ex-girlfriends. These 6 votes combined with unified Democratic opposition were decisive in defeating the resolution 213 to 214. Now, do you remember the Corey Mills situation?
Yeah.
We did talk about this on PEP at one point in time. I was a bit obsessed with this one as well.
Yes.
For those who didn't listen, this is a few months back now. He was the guy who was having an affair. He beat the suitcase out of the woman he was having an affair with. She called the cops on him. Then she changed her mind when he came back when the cops were there. She changed her story and she made some cover story for him. The only reason that charges weren't pressed against him, because at that point in time they had more than enough evidence to press charges.
Yeah.
The only reason the charges weren't pressed was because old Eagle Ed Martin Jr.
Eagle's Nest.
He dropped the charges because he was the U.S. attorney for Washington, D.C. at that point in time. Presumably, I always pause for that. Presumably, he dropped the charges because Mills is a Republican and Martin is incredibly corrupt. And then a few months later, that woman took a restraining order out on Corey Mills. So that's the background. So he's a great guy. And as far as I'm concerned, both those reps can get lost. So this whole story is incredibly depressing as far as I'm concerned, that they refused to censure. The House didn't censure someone for helping Jeffrey Epstein out for decades because they were too busy trying to protect a, not wife basher, a girlfriend basher while your wife's at home.
Yeah.
Right? That's, it's incredibly depressing situation. So, yeah, so that's why I'm a bit worked up.
Yes, fair enough.
Next talking point for you, Mari. Do we think Trump is involved? Do we think when all the emails come in and we all get to the bottom, even if we never find the answers, that he actually is involved or not?
Yeah, based on the timeline, like it doesn't seem likely to me. That it seems like they had their falling out early enough that it seems unlikely. I think we're going to see his name all over the files because we've already seen it all over the emails because Epstein was clearly obsessed with him. Yeah. They had a relationship. They had a friendship. So a lot of, like, we know that that's there, but I highly doubt we're going to find something that implicates Trump in, this really illicit behavior. I mean, I could be wrong. I haven't seen the files. I don't know what's in there, but I just based on the timeline and things, I do not think we're going to see some smoking gun with regard to Trump. How about you?
I think there's an interesting email for what I'm expecting to see more of.
Mm-hmm.
From March 2018, when Epstein was in the news at the time, someone wrote to Epstein, "It will all blow over. They're really just trying to take down Trump and doing whatever they can to do that." And Epstein replied, "Yes, thanks. It's wild because I'm the one able to take him down." And what information does Epstein have at his disposal that could take Trump down? That's what people were wondering when they saw that email. Democrats were getting pretty excited at the time. This is Senator Chris Murphy.
He wouldn't be going through all of this effort to try to stop the release of these files if he wasn't seriously implicated in those files. This is most likely the biggest corruption scandal in the history of the country. We know that because Donald Trump is going to these extraordinary lengths to stop these files from coming out.
Wow. Mm-hmm. But I want you to think of the context of that email. In fact, a lot of the emails we're about to see. Goes for the 2011 emails as well. When Epstein was talking about dogs not barking yet. Epstein knows all kinds of shit about Trump. They were wingmen, so to speak, for 15 years. Both of them had rather dubious sexual appetites. And they did a lot of shit together. Right? And at this point in time, we know a bunch of that shit as well. But we know in hindsight something that Epstein did not know in 2018 and in 2011, which is no one would care when they found out.
Yep.
In hindsight, all the stuff that Epstein, well, not all, we don't know what he knows, but a lot of the stuff that Epstein at the time only knew as a secret that's now public, he never would have guessed that people would have just shrugged when we found out.
Yeah.
He would have thought, oh, that's going to kill him. Oh, that'll kill him. Oh, my God. If they knew about that, that's the end of Trump. Yeah, it's like the John Oliver thing from 2017 or 2018, the big got him banner that came down every time something happened. they never got him.
Yeah.
Like that. We saw a great example of this in one of the other emails. Epstein was gossiping with the New York Times reporter, Landon Thomas Jr. in 2015. Thomas wrote, "Now everyone coming to me thinking I have juicy info on you and Trump." And Epstein replied, "Would you like photos of Donald and girls in bikinis in my kitchen?" And Thomas wrote, "Yes." And Epstein wrote, Hawaiian tropic girl Lauren Petrella. A woman, by the way, who a year later accused Trump of unwanted sexual advances on her when she was 22. She's one of his accusers. Jeffrey Epstein didn't know that at the time. And Epstein then linked to another photo of a different woman, Selena Middelfart, and he wrote, "My 20-year-old girlfriend in 93, that after 2 years I gave to Donald." He thought this was some of the dirt that could destroy Donald Trump.
Yeah.
But the idea that Donald Trump was stealing, harassing 20-year-olds and 22-year-olds, we all go, yeah, whatever. Locker room talk, boys being boys. That's what Trump did. I mean, it gives you a real insight into how low our standards have become. That they are lower than Jeffrey Epstein's standards of what he expects public people to accept. It's maybe Trump does have skeletons involving underage girls. Maybe he does. But you could easily see how even if he doesn't, Epstein would think that there are more than enough skeletons to finish Trump off without underage girl skeletons, but they weren't enough. Let's just revisit, just to make my point, what is already on the public record with Trump. Trump spent 30 years having sex with heaps of young women, celebrities, porn stars, you name it, often while married. He explicitly said people who were famous like him could just grab women by the pussy and they let you do it. He has been credibly accused of sexual abuse by at least 28 women. 28. He's been found liable in court for sexual abuse. He has a long history of saying perverted shit about his own child-age daughter. Like how he hoped she would develop big breasts. How if she wasn't his daughter, he'd be dating her. And that she was a piece of ass, he said about his child-age daughter. He notoriously made a thing of walking into change rooms unannounced of the Miss Teen USA contest. He partied with Epstein for decades, picking up women together, and he absolutely knew what Epstein liked because he once said publicly, I've known Jeff for 15 years, terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. It's even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it. Jeffrey enjoys his social life. Donald Trump dated 20-year-olds all the time. What the hell could he mean by many of them are on the younger side other than younger than 20?
Mm-hmm.
There's obviously the birthday card he wrote for Epstein.
Mm-hmm.
There's the time Epstein brought a young but adult model, Stacy Williams, to Trump Tower, and she accuses Trump of groping her relentlessly. There are the rape allegations against Trump by a 13-year-old girl at an Epstein party. There are the violent rape allegations by his own wife, Ivana, back in 1990. That's just off the top of my head.
Mm.
There's more.
Yeah.
There's heaps more. Now, with the exception of the rape accusation of the 13-year-old, none of that was in the Epstein zone.
Mm.
But before we knew most of that, you could see how Epstein would think that's more than enough to sink any political career.
Yeah, because it would have been before Trump.
Yeah.
A single one of those would have been a political fatality you couldn't recover from.
But now it's not.
Yeah.
That's Trump's legacy. Wonderful. So what I'm saying essentially is maybe Trump was involved, maybe he wasn't. But I wouldn't take Epstein saying dark things about the dirt he has on Trump as any indication either way.
Mm.
Because the rules have changed since Epstein was talking about this.
Yeah. And honestly, if there was something in the files that would truly implicate Trump in, something illegal, I can't imagine him not finding a way to, veto it or keep that from coming to light. Like if some, curveball comes up and none of the files come to light for some reason, then it looks more like a cover-up or something, which would be highly suspicious. And you go, well, why? But it to me seems more like it's going to be stuff that would be in the embarrassing category, like the Larry Summers emails, like highly embarrassing to him. But it's not saying that he's done anything illegal. So I have a feeling it'll be stuff in the embarrassing category, but I don't think we're going to get something that all of a sudden, now he's going to get charged with something. I don't think there's going to be anything like that.
I think probably likely, but we will see.
Yeah.
We will see. Then there's the whole Epstein, Ehud, Barak stuff, which hasn't been part of these emails. It's been part of a different email drop. I talked about this on Planet America a bit as well, but just for the people who didn't watch Planet America, I'll just spend a second on this, just because we should mention it, because in many ways these are, these answer the most questions, really. Like they answer the questions of how he got his money for a start, which is I've always wondered about, and how he knew all these people. None of this will be from the Epstein files, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
It's a separate hack and dump from the Handala group. We think they're from Iran. Certainly the metadata of some of the dumps suggest they're from Iran. And given they largely involve Epstein's ties to Israel, that would check out. Mm-hmm. Okay, what do the emails say? The drop site, the Substack drop site, has published 4 reports so far on these emails. In summary, just a line each. Epstein facilitated efforts to open a back channel between Israel and Moscow during the Syrian civil war between 2013 and 2016 to hopefully broker an end to the war. That included Epstein organising a private meeting between Ehud Barak, former Israeli PM and former defense minister, and Putin himself. Epstein facilitated efforts for Barak to sell weapons to several African nations, including Cote d'Ivoire, right around the time he stopped being defense minister. Senior Israeli intelligence officer lived at Epstein's Manhattan apartment for multiple stretches between 2013 and 2016, and Epstein helped coordinate a visit to Mongolia for Ehud Barak right at the end of his time as defense minister. It's all very weird because these emails, they do, as I said, they at least point to how he made money, because selling weapons you'd make a lot of money out of. But you just go, how do you end up getting mixed up in this shit? Like, it doesn't mean he's an agent. He might just have a relationship with Ehud Barak. Like, Ehud Barak might be his little buddy. He seems to collect these buddies.
Yeah.
But
they had little emails to each other, conspiratorial, maybe.
If you recall, Ehud Barak was the guy who did the really sick shit to Virginia Giuffre.
Yeah.
So I don't want to know about his emails.
Yeah.
But we may be finding them out eventually. I should say alleged. I don't know, but Virginia Giuffre says he's the one who did the really sick shit to her.
Yeah.
The thing I find weirdest about them, though, is that we barely hear about them. When, like, we know that one of the most allegedly vicious pedos was Barak. We know that there's some amazing stuff happening here. I don't really understand why we're not talking about this more. Like, I don't know if there's concerns that I don't know if the media think to themselves, oh, anything which involves Epstein and Israel, like there's potentially anti-Semitic conspiracy theories here or something. Maybe an email is an email, you know. Like it is what it is. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts about why it's been ignored by the mainstream media so much?
I mean, I think you're onto something. I would guess, and this isn't based on anything, but a lot of the sensitivities around Israel in the news right now would make it much more fraught than it would be at other times. So I think in other media cycles, at other times, it would land differently, but they're all probably treading carefully for a lot of reasons. And then, the online conspiracy stuff, they don't want to get accused of something. And especially, I mean, it's hard to know how the Trump administration would, respond to something that looks bad about Epstein. It's all very convoluted, but my guess is the optics of something or potential risks, their risk appetite is not high enough for them to go out with it, and so they're making a calculated decision. That would be my assumption.
I suspect this happens more than we would like to admit.
Oh,
I was going to say that people sometimes make decisions based on who is the people who are talking about it. And I mean, there's no doubt that some of the loudest voices who want to talk about Ehud, Barak, and Epstein, they're not very nice people. And some people just instinctively go, well, if they're talking about it, I don't want to talk about it.
Yep.
I don't want to be their buddy. The old friend of the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of situation. I mean, I don't like that. I think we should look at the content rather than the people talking about it, but just that may be part as well. Okay, then we got the vote to release the files. Now, first Trump tried to stop the vote coming. He tweeted out about Democrats are trying to bring up the Jeffrey Epstein hoax again because they'll do anything at all to deflect on how badly they've done on the shutdown. So many other subjects. Only a very bad or stupid Republican would fall into that trap. Democrats cost our country $1.6 trillion with their recent antics of viciously closing our country while at the same time putting many at risk, and they should pay a fair price. There should be no deflections to Epstein or anything else, and any Republicans involved should be focused only on opening up our country and fixing the massive damage caused by the Democrats. He did many tweets like that. To be fair, there are good reasons to not release the files. They don't normally release work product from the FBI for good reasons. I mean, like the files are going to name people who did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Those people are going to be tarred with the stink of Epstein for the rest of their lives. There's no due process for someone who's named in an email drop. There's no way of clearing their name. Crazy people on the internet will never let them forget it.
Yeah.
Ask John Podesta about Pizzagate.
Oh my gosh.
Ask Comet Pizza about the dude who showed up with a rifle because of Pizzagate. There'll be more of them for sure. Even if you redact some names, internet sleuths will work out the names anyway. They're good at that. Damn them. And for others, they'll work them out wrong. It's just even worse because then that person is going to cop it anyway. This other person. And the release could give clues to bad guys who dob them in as well. There'll also be heaps of irresponsible people trying to exploit these releases. There were two great examples this week. In 2013, a consultancy firm sent out a form email to Jeffrey Epstein inviting him to donate to the guy they call Brooklyn's Barak, a young up-and-comer named Hakeem Jeffries. It's a form letter, and Jeffries himself had nothing to do with it. Yet libs of TikTok saw that and tweeted out, wait, so Hakeem Jeffries invited Epstein to a dinner to solicit money from him in 2013 after Epstein was convicted for procuring a child for prostitution? No, it wasn't. Hakeem Jeffries didn't invite Epstein to anything. A consultancy firm that he hired sent out form letters to every single donor in the city.
Yeah.
That's what happened. And you know how many times I've seen people talk about Hakeem Jeffries hitting up Jeffrey Epstein for donations since then. That kind of irresponsible shit is going to be happening over and over again when this stuff drops. And the worst example, during the Stacy Plaskett stuff, oh my God, I hated that story. Jasmine Crockett, did you see this? When she was trying to defend Stacy Plaskett by saying, basically lay off Stacy Plaskett.
No, I was looking at Jasmine Crockett again recently because I was thinking about the Marjorie Taylor Greene stuff, and I was remembering their delightful exchange from.
Haven't they moved in different directions, those two?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Jasmine Crockett was doing the old sort of street talk thing that she likes to do when she was telling people to lay off Stacy Plaskett, and she turned to utter desperation. Look at this.
Folks who also took money from somebody named Jeffrey Epstein, as I had my team dig in very quickly. Mitt Romney, the NRCC, Lee Zeldin, George Bush, Win Red, McCain Palin, Rick Lazio. I just want to be clear. If this is the standard that we're going to make, just know we're going to expose it all. And just know that the FEC filings, they are available for everybody to review. This is absolutely ridiculous.
She knew what she was doing.
Yes.
That's why she used the phrase, took money from somebody named Jeffrey Epstein.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't use that phrase unless you knew what you were doing.
Yeah. Well, so when I looked up, because she's the one who had that, that quote, when she was going at it with MTG, he said, bleach blonde, bad built, butch body, da. And I saw this interview with her talking about it with Jimmy Kimmel, and he asked her, did you just come up with that in the moment or whatever? And at first she said yeah, whatever. And not whatever, but yeah, I did. It was just, that she's like, there's a bit more time than what it shows the thing. Anyway, he circled back later. He's like, but did you write it down or anything? And she's like, oh yeah, I was looking her head to toe and I wrote down what I was going to say and blah, blah, blah. And it was interesting because I was like, that was a real insight about her. It's like she wanted to make a thing. So she had some time. She wrote out the thing. She planned out what she was going to say. And then she said it. It was premeditated. And so she's putting effort.
Yeah.
She put effort into that thing, which if it's off the cuff, that's amazing. It's still, I guess, clever and catchy. But if it's something you just rattle off the top of your head versus something you're kind of planning and writing out, that felt similar as she is planning. She's meticulously coming up with what she's going to say about this.
Oh, yeah, she planned it enough to know that she was just defaming a whole bunch of people.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Jeffrey Epsteins donating there weren't the Jeff Epstein. Some of them were Dr. Epstein. Some of them donated after Epstein was dead. There are 19 Jeffrey Epsteins in New York alone.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't care. There's going to be heaps of that shit when the files come out. So, given everything I've just said, should they be released?
What do I think? Should they be released? It's interesting. I feel like the cat is out of the bag. To some extent, where now to not release the files will probably create more problems, fuel conspiracies even more than, all the risks that you've raised, those are valid. I think it's interesting that people are already starting to look in just people learning to use AI. And at first, if people are really trusting of AI, or you see the AI images and you're like, oh, that's so amazing. And then you quickly learn to start looking for the extra fingers or whatever. And you learn the skill of kind of reading through and working through what is real and what's bogus. I feel like we're starting to do that with the initial drop of 20,000 pages of emails, reading through. Media, not so much. Media are looking for certain key words and oh, the dog that didn't bark, or, dangerous. These words will play well on media. But as people start to look at more things, I think they're getting a bit more skill than they maybe had previously in discerning what's legit versus what's not. I think it's risky, but I think the conspiracy theories that will be fueled by not releasing it at this point, this story will just never go away. So I think it's risky, but I don't know. At this point, I want the thing to kind of, I don't know. I want some resolution. Personally, I want some closure. And maybe that's completely wishful thinking because all it's going to do is open Pandora's box.
Yeah.
But I guess that's where my brain is. What about you? You sound like you're like, nope, put him away. Let's be done.
No, I think we're on the road. And I don't think there's anything we can do about it. And
Yeah.
I don't mean because the bill passed. I mean even before the bill passed. I think we're just on a road now where we're just going down the road. I just wish that the world that the road existed in was a little less shit, and it wouldn't be so negative, because I think it's going to be a very negative experience.
Yes.
But I think we have no choice.
Yeah.
I think that's where we're at. I actually suspect that there's going to be very little actual information come out. Like, I don't think these revelations are going to be very revealing.
No, I don't think there's a client list that's
No.
going to
Oh,
be
God, no.
in the files, and this is the list everyone's been looking for. Like, it's clear, from the emails and things, he doesn't seem like a meticulous guy. He doesn't seem like a list keeper. He's just vibing and chatting in the moment and conversational. I mean, maybe he's a mathematician. I do not think he has a list. There will be no list in the files. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before, but
I think it'll be a lot less than just not a client list. And let me tell you what I mean. If you look at what's in the bill that passed, and there's a precious little talking about what's in the bill, I've noticed. It requires the Department of Justice to, within 30 days, publish all unclassified records, documents, communications, and investigative materials in DOJ's possession that relate to the investigation and prosecution of Jeffrey Epstein. That's quite a lot. DOJ said earlier in the year they have 300 gigabytes of material. But it doesn't compel the production of Epstein-related materials from outside DOJ. What does that mean? It means Ron Wyden, who's been trying to get Epstein's financial transaction records from the Treasury Department for years, this bill's not going to help him. The financial documents are probably the most important ones. We're not going to see them, probably. The CIA's National Resources Division watches Americans with interesting foreign ties, like, say, people who chum around with Ehud Barak. They're not part of the DOJ. We're not going to see that. The bill bans the Department of Justice from redacting information on the basis of embarrassment, reputational harm, or political sensitivity. But it does allow the redaction of classified information. Do you trust this administration and their classification decisions?
all Trump has to do is just think it, and then something's classified.
Yeah, that's what I hear. We already know for a fact that Pam Bondi got the FBI to redact the entire Epstein files for Trump's name earlier this year. That was a news story 6 months ago. We know it's happened. So what are people expecting to happen now? There's going to be redacted shit. And some of it will be about Trump, and we won't even know what that is.
Yep.
It will also allow the Justice Department to redact information about Epstein's victims or continuing federal investigations. Continuing federal investigations. Trump just announced a whole new investigation into Democrats associated with Epstein. That could lead to massive redactions. Who's going to be making those calls? Pam Bondi and her people are going to be making those calls. Do you trust them to make those calls? He's already said he is going to release to the House Oversight Committee whatever it is, quote, legally entitled to. That's what Trump has said. We're not going to know what we don't know, Mari.
Yep.
The stuff they don't show us, we're not going to know exists. So they'll be making legal calls. They'll be making classification calls. They're going to make calls about what releases will jeopardize their brand new Epstein investigation. And if they're overly conservative in their calls, how would we know? Let's say we did know. Let's say someone told us. Unlikely, but let's say they did. That's another year in the courts before we get to the bottom of each question, because every single one they're going to defend in court. And we know how the court feels about the executive's decision, the executive's prerogative to look after executive areas like the Department of Justice. So there's every chance that this bill could be unconstitutional in the eyes of Justice Roberts, which we'll find out if there's a juicy piece of information that we want revealed and they refuse to reveal it. Justice Roberts, in 2 years' time, will go, sorry, guys, That's the executive prerogative. You can't get that. And this is unconstitutional. I suspect this is going to end up being very much like trying to get Trump to release his taxes a few years back. There's going to be court case after court case after court case, and it's just going to go nowhere unless someone leaks it. And there'll be some leaks. Then who knows what their intentions will be. But anyway, there was always an excuse with taxes. There was always another audit. And the best illustration of this, just think about the emails that were just released, just now, the ones that were just released that we just saw last week. Okay, most of them pretty harmless emails, right?
Yep.
The DOJ has every one of those emails. Earlier in the year, they said they had already released everything they could legally release. Why were they keeping all those emails hidden?
They couldn't legally release them.
Apparently. So that's their standard of what can be released and what can't be released. They're the ones who are going to be judging what gets released. Kash Patel said, we're not going to re-victimize women. That's why they kept all that stuff hidden. I don't know how you re-victimize women by releasing Epstein saying that he thinks Trump is dirty. That wasn't released. So anyway, that's what we're dealing with. The same people making decisions, those transparency calls. I don't think we're going to see much. And I just got one more correspondence in this little area, and then we'll get into Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Okay.
Glenn, a quick hypothetical for you both. If the Trump administration are ultimately forced to release the Epstein files, how are the public meant to know if the contents have been altered, tampered, or partially deleted in the event that there is a smoking gun against Trump within? My assumption is that given the FBI or whoever are keepers of the data are in Trump's pocket, they could or potentially would make the release as beneficial to Republicans and detrimental to Democrats as possible, especially when they've got an investigation into it now. Particularly after his recent statements about going after, you just said that, going after high-profile Democrats such as Bill Clinton. Sorry, I should have read that properly. Or do you think there would be mechanisms in place that go above Trump and his insiders that would uphold the records intact? Yeah, sure. It's a highly cynical hypothetical, but these are times we are living in, so nothing would surprise me. Mari, what's your response?
Well, I mean, I've thought about some of these things. I think we've already tipped our hat a little bit in terms of a highly cynical thing. I mean, this is all very politically motivated, so I don't think anything's too cynical necessarily. One thing I have thought about is the new Department of Justice investigations into, Bill Clinton and, Larry Summers, the different, Democratic operatives. And I was like, Thomas Massie was saying, that they could use that as a ploy to not release files, blah, blah, blah. But I was like, if they're choosing to target Democrats, it would behoove the Trump administration to release and make public the, evidence that implicates Democrats in this, you would think. So it wouldn't help them to hide the documents that are related to Bill Clinton, say. So I was wondering, but I think you could use that as a cover for potentially hiding things, and then no one knows what isn't released. So like you said, they get to make the call on what's released or not, and we have no way of knowing. So I think that could happen. But I don't know why they would say not want to release stuff about Bill Clinton. There's an investigation going now, but why would they want to hide that? I'm not sure. So that's one thing I thought about.
I'm sure they won't be hiding the Bill Clinton documents, but there's a question of whether they could say other documents that aren't really about Bill Clinton.
Yeah,
touch on the Bill Clinton investigation.
They'll find a tie. They're going to find whatever, little wisp of a thought of a thread, and then use that to say that certain things cannot be released. I am almost certain of that.
Glenn, I'm saying that's a great question from you. It's happened before. You may not know that, but for history buffs will know that during the Watergate scandal, the Nixon was told to preserve his records, and yet 18 and a half minutes just disappeared. The 18 and a half minutes that were where they were supposedly talking about the Watergate break-in just mysteriously disappeared. So this has happened before. And the truth is that we can't know in many cases if some evidence has been tampered with or destroyed for the reasons I told you before. What I would say is, though, Trump is taking a risk to ask for evidence to be monkeyed with, if he should ask. Because it just takes one secret good government type or secret Democrat or secret independent to see this happen in a bureaucracy and then blow the whistle and create a much, much bigger scandal. So I don't think Trump would order anyone, maybe but just for our self-preservation, but maybe he would. I don't know. All I'm saying is that's the risk. The risk of blowing up in your face. Having said that, let's say it did. Apart from the PR issues, Trump's got the pardon power.
Yeah.
He can just pardon anyone for doing anything. If someone wants to just go on their own accord and just shred a whole bunch of Trump documents, he can pardon them. If it sounds kind of corrupt, then he's protected by John Roberts' immunity ruling. Thanks, John. Because that's definitely presidential conduct. Like John Roberts specifically said, the pardon was presidential conduct.
Yep.
So once again, that was the worst decision ever from John Roberts. All right, I'm going to skip past. I was going to talk a bit about the Clinton investigation. That's not going away anywhere. I'll talk about that next week. Let's talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene. We've got about 20 minutes. I'm going to use it on her.
Okay.
Hey, Peppers. Chaz here from the future with a good boy. And I was just talking to Mercury here about the fact that it's predictable that as soon as we record half an hour about Marjorie Taylor Greene versus Trump, she then goes and resigns as soon as we finish recording, and so it's all out of date. I know we're obviously not going to address it because we recorded this back in the past. A lot of it still holds up, but obviously we have to explain what's going on here. And I got some theories, but I'll save them for next week when we do talk about this. So we'll see you in the final PEP of the year to talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene resigning, as well as a bunch of other things. Till then, stay peppy. Enjoy the rest of the pod. We've been talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene seemingly running for president for some time. She's been at Trump on Epstein for about 6 months.
Yeah.
She recently said nice things about Nancy Pelosi, you mentioned before. She's been showing up on CNN a lot, on The View, of all places.
Yep. She got praised by CNN's, Dana Bash was, praising her.
Yeah, I've got a few clips of that coming up. She critiqued the Argentina bailout. She critiqued Republicans' response to Obamacare subsidies being reduced. Now she's even going Trump on inflation, which is his weakest area. Have a look at this.
The president says there's virtually no inflation and that grocery prices are going down. Do you agree with him on that?
No, I go to the grocery store myself. Grocery prices remain high. Energy prices are high. My electricity bills are higher here in Washington, D.C. at my apartment, and they're also higher at my house in Rome, Georgia, higher than they were a year ago. So affordability is a problem, and I'm a mom. My kids are 22, 26, and 28. That's the generation I worry about the most, and they're having a very hard time.
This was even more aggressive, where she's explicitly calling Trump out for gaslighting people about prices.
Gaslighting the people and trying to tell them that prices have come down is not helping. It's actually infuriating people, because people know what they're paying at the grocery store. They know what they're paying for their kids' clothes and school supplies. They know what they're paying for their electricity bills. And so that approach does not work. We need compassion and show that we care about the American people, and show that we are in the trenches with them on what they're going through. That's first and foremost. You don't gaslight them, you don't lecture them, and you don't deny what's happening.
Trump took all of that without complaint. But then last week, when Marjorie Taylor Greene turned up in Politico saying, releasing the Epstein files is the easiest thing in the world. Just release it all, let the American people sort through every bit of it, and, support the victims. That's just like the most common sense, easiest thing in the world. But to spend any effort trying to stop it it just doesn't make sense to me. Trump responded. I am withdrawing my support and endorsement of Congresswoman, inverted commas, Marjorie Taylor Greene of the great state of Georgia. All I see wacky Marjorie do is complain. I understand that wonderful conservative people are thinking about primarying Marjorie in her district of Georgia, that they too are fed up with her and her antics, and if the right person runs, they'll have my complete and unyielding support. She's gone far left, even doing The View with their low IQ Republican-hating anchors. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Drink, make America great again. Wacky? Bit of a threat. It's like a semi-nickname. He's just creeping up to the line there. And by the way, he said she's jealous about Trump telling her to not run for Senate or governor or something in the bits which I cut out.
Yeah.
That would have been 6 months ago.
Yeah.
No one's doing nothing when they're angry and then 6 months later slowly turn up the heat. So I don't think that's it.
Yeah.
But Marjorie Taylor Greene paid no heed. She said, President Trump just attacked me and lied about me. I haven't called him at all, but I did send these text messages today. Apparently this is what sent him over the edge, their text messages about Epstein. The Epstein files. And of course, he's coming after me hard to make an example, to scare all the other Republicans before next week's vote to release the Epstein files. It's astonishing, really, how hard he's fighting to stop the Epstein files from coming out. He actually goes to this level. But really, most Americans wish he'd fight this hard to help the forgotten men and women of America who are fed up with foreign wars and foreign causes, are going broke trying to feed their families, and are losing hope of ever achieving the American dream. She's so running for president. That's what I voted for. I have supported President Trump with too much of my precious time, too much of my own money, and fought harder for him, even when almost all other Republicans turned their back and denounced him. But I don't worship or serve Donald Trump. I worship God. Jesus is my savior, and I serve my district, GA14, and the American people. I remain the same today as I've always been, and I'll continue to pray this administration will be successful because the American people desperately deserve what they voted for. For me, I remain America first and America only. And then Trump escalated again with a new nickname. Lightweight Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Brown. Green grass turns brown when it begins to rot. Betrayed the entire Republican Party when she turned left, performed poorly on the pathetic View, and became the rhino that we all know she always was. Just another fake politician, no different than Rand Paul Jr., Thomas Massey, who got caught being a full-fledged Republican in name only. Make America great again. That nickname obviously bombed. Not a good sign if you feel have to explain it. So he ripped off Laura Loomer, and he used her nickname. Marjorie Traitor Greene is a disgrace to our great Republican Party. And Marjorie Taylor Greene warned him right back. Mm-hmm. She posts a pic of her perfect Conservative Review legislative score and a pic of her taking $0 from AIPAC, the Israeli lobby group, and writes, "This and the Epstein files is why I'm being attacked by President Trump. It really makes you wonder what is in those files and who and what country is putting so much pressure on him. I forgive him and I'll pray him to return to his original MAGA promises." That's not subtle, is it, Mari? And for the left who have a strange new respect for Marjorie Taylor Greene, remember, she's still able to make vague allusions to Jews controlling Trump and making him keep the Epstein files closed with their money. Mm-hmm. Some of you might love that insinuation. I don't. Anyway, that was, for the first time, I think, some serious food for thought back at Trump. Watch out.
Yep.
And then she showed how nimble she was on CNN the very next day.
You said on X yesterday, quote, "It's astonishing really how hard he's fighting to stop the Epstein files from coming out, and that it really makes you wonder what is in those files." Are you suggesting there's something in the Epstein files that President Trump does not want Americans to see?
Well, I think that's the part that has so many people confused, is that the women themselves that I have talked to have over and over again said that Donald Trump did nothing wrong. Quite a few of them even told me they voted for him. And those are the women I would like to see in the Oval Office with support. I would like to see all of the women there with support. I have no idea what's in the files. I can't even guess, but that is the questions everyone is asking, is why fight this so hard?
Well, before this blow-up, you sort of alluded to this just now. You said you were confident the president wouldn't be implicated. Are you still confident of that?
I'm listening to the women. Those are the ones that are saying that he did nothing wrong. Virginia Giuffre even said under oath that Donald Trump did nothing wrong, and she wrote it in her book. So I'm continuing to listening to the women, and I think their voices should be the loudest.
That was actually quite deft. Like, it was quite subtle the way she was hiding behind the women and wrapping herself in the women, saying, "No, I'm all about the women, the believing the women, the survivors. It's all about survivors." And I'm supporting Donald Trump. I'm supporting him. Unlike everyone else, I'm saying that he didn't do anything. It's just interesting. He's not supporting releasing the files. It was actually surprisingly subtly done. And then she gave Trump more to think about by suggesting that he was putting her life in danger, which also, by the way, is something Republicans usually do to Democrats, not to other Republicans. And there she was doing it.
I stood with President Trump when virtually no one else did. Campaigned all over the country, spent millions of my own dollars helping him get elected. And I think that's incredibly important. And I do support him and his administration. And I support them in delivering the campaign promises we made to the American people. His remarks, of course, have been hurtful. However, I have something in my heart that I think is incredibly important for our country, and that is to end the toxic fighting in politics. And this has been going on for years, and it has divided our country, split up friends and families, neighbors, and it's not solving our problems. The most hurtful thing he said, which is absolutely untrue, is he called me a traitor, and that is so extremely wrong. And those are the types of words used that can radicalize people against me and put my life in danger.
Is obviously preposterous coming from Marjorie Taylor Greene. She made her name by harassing David Hogg in the streets of Washington. She then harassed AOC in the Capitol building. And Dana Bash was pretty nice to her, but she did note the hypocrisy. But once again, Marjorie Taylor Greene handled it like really well.
Obviously, any threats to your safety are completely unacceptable. But we have seen these kinds of attacks or criticism from the president at other people. It's not new. And with respect, I haven't heard you speak out about it until it was directed at you.
Dana, I think that's fair criticism. And I would like to say humbly, I'm sorry for taking part in the toxic politics. It's very bad for our country. And it's been something I've thought about a lot, especially since Charlie Kirk was assassinated, is that I'm only responsible for myself and my own words and actions. And I am committed, and I've been working on this a lot lately, to put down the knives in politics. I really just want to see people be kind to one another, and we need to figure out a new path forward that is focused on the American people, because as Americans, no matter what side of the aisle we're on, we have far more in common than we have differences. Yeah. And we need to be able to respect each other with our disagreements.
Linking that to Charlie Kirk, that's a brilliant way of co-opting conservatives against Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And all that Obama-esque guff about having more stuff in common than our differences and stuff. She's running for president. I was really surprised by the skills that she showcased. I did not expect that, which to me screams out that everything she does must be totally confected.
Well, and so this is one of my big takeaways from the whole Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Tell me all your takeaways.
Well, like basically watching all of this, I was like, oh, this is a rebrand. You know, it's nothing more than a rebrand, and which then made me realize. I mean, so much of her rise to politics is like grabbing attention, and so how much of the outrageous things that she had said previously, and the outrageous way that she would say things, it now makes me think this is much more calculated than I realized. I'm not sure how much intuitive political savviness she has, but maybe there's more than I realized, because she just came across in the early days as this more like QAnon conspiracist who's saying the quiet part out loud and getting elected, and then just, really being a really loud out there voice and unafraid of saying some truly horrific things at times. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, that is like a rebrand, and she's changed everything. And the first thing it made me think of was the Cracker Barrel rebrand from earlier this year, which won't, the Australian audience won't really get it because it's an American franchise. But it was, it's a Southern chain in the U.S., and they had this old-timey logo that was supposedly folksy and charming or whatever, and then they simplified it to a more clean, sleek logo. And then they got a massive backlash from the right, including President Trump. So they reverted, and we're like, we listened to the people and we've changed it back. So part of me is like, is she gonna revert or not? But because her ambitions are set on 2028, I'm surprised how well she's doing right now, how well things are going for her. One tweet of hers I thought was notable was from right after the election where the Democrats did better than expected recently, where she said the day after, she's like, if you don't understand yesterday's election results, here are the groups that Republicans have disenfranchised. 1, America first, America only. Like, she clearly wants to make that the new MAGA. 2, make America healthy again. 3, Americans suffering from high cost of living, rising food and energy prices, and leaving them out to dry with no plan on our skyrocketing health insurance premiums. You can't meme and throw red meat rants and interviews and get your way out of this. These people are serious and only support action. They're done with words, and I completely agree with them. I mean, she's getting the messaging right for, what Republicans would maybe need to do. So she's doing all of this surprisingly well. What I want to see is, because Trump has had such a huge stronghold on the Republican Party ever since he, kind of rose to power. Part of me wonders, one of the big questions is who decides what MAGA is, and he is saying, and a good group of conservative commentators are saying, Trump is MAGA. Everything that Trump says is MAGA. So I'm like, is Trump the MAGA Pope? And is this going to lead to a schism, in the Church of MAGA? Are they going to have this indelible rift over, the question, is MAGA more than Trump or not? Or does whatever Trump says become what MAGA is about? Or are there principles or are there things that are bigger than even Trump himself? I think that's a key critical question. I think she is testing it, and she thinks she's going to be successful. I don't know how that's going to play out. All I know is that so far, every time, political commentators have thought that Trump is going to falter, Trump is going to lose his sway with the Republican Party, or, the checks and balances, Congress is going to keep him in line, the Supreme Court is going to keep him in line, or there's no way he can get elected with this, blah, blah, blah. So far, he just defies gravity. Nothing sticks to him, and he's been remarkably effective in, overcoming things that would have sunk any other politician. So I don't know. I feel like it's a very live question. But is MAGA bigger than Trump, or does Trump own MAGA? I'm not sure, but I'm going to be interested to see how it plays out.
See, I reckon if Trump does well, then Marjorie Taylor Greene doesn't stand a chance.
Yeah.
She's not next in line. She's not even close to next in line. So it doesn't matter. From my perspective, I don't think it matters what happens to who owns MAGA, because MAGA needs to die in the ass for her to have a chance.
True.
Which is why I think you're right when you say she's trying to rebrand America first. She's trying to make that her MAGA.
Yeah.
Which is a smart thing to do. Because if MAGA dies in the ass, she can have the rising phoenix of America first, which is close enough, but it's just a nice little rebrand for the next phase, and you can still have the same MAGA people just reworking themselves.
And it would be so distinctly different from what we've seen in Trump in his second term so far. I mean, this is the thing, that there so many of the conservatives who voted for him, or not conservatives, just the people who voted for Trump, so many of them have been surprised about is the stuff that hasn't been America first. The amount of time he spent on his foreign policy things this term, that has shocked a lot of people. It's upset a lot of people. So she's tapped into that as a core issue. And maybe that becomes the rebrand. America first is the thing. But
well, yeah, I was going to say, I think that just what she's trying to do is just survive. She's just trying to, she's trying to take him on and survive. And no one's ever done that before in the Republican Party. But you know what? She just did. Just now. She just did. Trump just backed down. On this issue, he backed down on her issue. The one she chose to stand up on. She drew a lot of attention during that 24-hour period, or the 48-hour period during the weekend. Trump tried to take her down. At one point in time, he actually ran his three nicknames all in the one tweet. He was got right there. Wacky Marjorie Traitor Brown. Remember, green turns brown when there's rot involved. He did them all in a row. He was doing everything. And after that weekend, he gave up. And he conceded to her. Of course, he didn't say he was conceding.
He never does.
But everyone knew it. How did that happen? First of all, her positions were centered around the Epstein survivors. She kept on putting them first, the Epstein survivors, and making it about them. And they're starting to piss conservatives off a little bit these days, but still not much. And she wrapped herself completely in the survivors, which is smart. They responded, writing her an open letter saying, when you speak the truth and refuse to bow to threats, you become a survivor by proxy. An ally who carries part of the fight with us. That courage matters. We stand united with you against any attempt to bully, rewrite history, or shut down accountability. From the bottom of our hearts, thank you. We will defend you with everything we have. Release the files. She's getting endorsed by the Epstein survivors. Another thing she did, unlike Elon Musk, she didn't just burn down the house. She didn't just go right at him and just attack. At all times, she's still saying she supports Trump. In every one of her interviews, she says, I support Trump. I support MAGA. She refused to overtly attack him. All her attacks were nuanced and clever and just from the sides, just implied. There's always deniability. It was always subtle and careful. Here's another example where she implies a criticism without actually saying it.
I was called a traitor by a man that I fought for 6 years for. And I gave him my loyalty for free. I won my first election without his endorsement, beating 8 men in a primary. And I've never owed him anything, but I fought for him for the policies and for America first. And he called me a traitor for standing with these women and refusing to take my name off the discharge petition. Let me tell you what a traitor is. A traitor is an American that serves foreign countries and themselves. A patriot is an American that serves the United States of America and Americans like the women standing behind me.
That was subtle. Is she calling Trump a traitor or not? Once again, there's deniability. She also emphasized that she was keeping her conservative principles by stating them openly. Elon Musk never did this. On Tucker Carlson, she explicitly said, my 5 pillars are America first, secure borders, no pointless wars, end globalization, protect free speech. And, she's consistent on that. She actually has stood by them. On CNN, she was defending Nick Fuentes on free speech grounds. People say it was a mistake. It wasn't a mistake. It was intentional. She does this shit on purpose. She's actually smart at this, in terms of rat cunning in politics, at least. Then after the weekend of fighting, Trump backs down. He takes it Marjorie Taylor Greene's side. Has he gone on with it, though, afterwards? No, he just shut up. He's trying to let it go. She's never apologised. She's never changed tack at all in this last week. She stared him down and she won. And they know that happened. And by the way, even in her district in Georgia, the chairman of the local Republican Party rejected Trump's demand for a primary challenger by saying that Greene has their full and unwavering support. And you know what? She hasn't done a single lap of victory. She knows that people know and she's let it go. She's banking that respect that she just earned and she's moving on to fight another day. Again, it's clever. But as far as I'm concerned, this is a problem for Trump. And I'm just going to put this to you and then I'll let you have the final word and then we're finished.
Okay.
This is not the only time Trump has been beaten recently. He got spanked in the election the other week. Republicans like Nancy Mace and Lauren Boebert refused to back down on the discharge petition when he asked them to. Mace didn't even take his phone call. Indiana GOP lawmakers, Trump wanted to redistrict. They said no. The Supreme Court is sounding fairly obstreperous about tariffs. The Senate ignored Trump on the filibuster. How many times did he tell them to reform the filibuster? They told him to go take a hike. Also, by the way, he wants them to get rid of blue slips for judicial appointments, which is when a local senator, even a Democrat senator, has to agree to a judge before they're nominated. The Republicans aren't giving that up. Trump wants them to. They said no. Trump's 50-year mortgage idea got trashed. His comments supporting H-1B visas got trashed by conservatives, I'm saying here. He just reversed some of his food tariffs. He said he'd never reverse. He took the L on them. There's a backlash on Fuentes and Republican Nazis at the Heritage Foundation against Trump's wishes. He's been losing an awful lot in the last month. He has not had nearly this much loss at any other time since 2021, basically, just after the January 6th. And that's important because this is a perception game here. Trump knows this better than anyone. You got to look like you're winning all the time. When people smell blood in the water, you become a lame duck fast. And that is what he is becoming, I think, which is why I think Trump felt he couldn't afford to let Congress rebuke him just now, which is why he just turned on the dime and just let them win with the Epstein vote. So my 2 questions to you, you finish off. How much trouble is Trump in at the moment, for reals? And do you think this is a one-off for Marjorie Taylor Greene, or does she potentially have legs?
So I could very well be wrong on both of these things, but I would say, is Trump in trouble? I think that politics has a way of flip-flopping very, very quickly, and so it's unpredictable. I think he's in trouble right now for this cycle. How long it lasts, I don't know. I think between now and the midterms, less than a year from now, we're going to see times, I feel like it's going to be dramatic. We're going to see times where it looks like, the Republicans are up and the Republicans are down. The Democrats are up and the Democrats are down. And I think Trump is going to ebb and flow with that a little bit. I think he's going to have less control in driving the narrative than he has in 2025 because people are going to be more focused on their re-election. And so they're going to have to make a lot of political decisions. And if they've seen in Marjorie Taylor Greene's case that there's a chance that things can go well in standing up to Trump, then we'll probably see a bit more of that. So I think we'll see a bit of stuff, but Trump also, when he's on the ropes, he does well as an underdog. And so he might be able to use the things where it looks negatively and use that and flip it to really, drive something forward. So I wouldn't count him out as a lame duck yet. The other question was...
Marjorie Taylor Greene. Does she have legs?
Does she have legs? Okay, my maybe cynical take on her, standing up to Trump, or the way that she was so careful with her words. I think she's hedging her bets again, so that I think she's going to cozy up to Trump again at some point. I think she's rebranding herself, and she wants to be viewed in a new way. I think she wants this credibility. She wants to have a separation from the way that she defined herself in her past, but she wants to base it on some different substance rather than just a performance and what she's had before. But I think she's going to want his sway and influence within the party. I think she wants to climb up within the party. And I think she's finding an effective way to do that so far. That's my take.
I definitely agree with you on Trump. He's going to have ebbs and flows. He's going to come back, and he's going to come back, and he'll be up and down. I think the bottom will fall out for him, but not yet. I think it'll fall out in the midterms. I think that's when he's in real trouble.
Yeah.
And Marjorie Taylor Greene, I think I'm amazed by how clever she is. I would never have expected this, like the kind of tricks she's been pulling. I don't think she has a big future, but I think she has a big future has been a nightmare for Trump. I think she is going to make up with him for sure, but they're going to have some more fights, and I think he's going to lose every one of them. I think she's got his measure, but it's not going to be enough for her to win the nomination in 2028, I suspect.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've really got to get out of here way over time. The Christmas special coming up, 2-parter, end of next week. I'll see you guys then. Thank you so much for filling in, Mari. I really, really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure.
Wonderful. I'm sorry I talked a lot, but I was trying to squeeze shit in.
There's a lot to talk about.
There is. We will see you guys in a week's time. Till then, stay peppy.